This is because the Lutyens ecosystem is notorious for only pushing a line that suits their narrative. If it's a bit out of their narrative, rest assured, it won't be covered. In their worldview, in some instances, a story isn't a story till a victim is a Muslim and the perpetrators are Hindus. But in Palamu, Jharkhand, viewers, where Times Now's reporting team has been camping for 48 hours, the victims belong to the Mahadalit Hindu community, the poorest of the poorest among Hindus. These oppressed have neither the clout nor the resources to fight for justice. Today, Times Now will fight their fight in the hope that we can take it to the logical conclusion. And that is, viewers, justice. Times Now's Mohit Bhatt traveled to Palamu in Jharkhand, where 50 families became refugees overnight in their own land as a rampaging mob razed their homes. They cry and plead as they narrate their ordeal. Their houses have been razed by a bulldozer and their places of worship desecrated. Times Now went to the spot which they called their home till very recently. And those assembled there, fearing for their lives, told us how JCBs and bulldozers plowed through them. They tell us how they pleaded repeatedly with Mukhtar and his accomplices to at least spare their temples. But to no avail, viewers. The mob led by Mukhtar ran riot. It was all thought out. The dispute was over land and its title. Viewers, there are two ways of settling such disputes. One is the civilized way, and the other, viewers, is an intolerant way. The civilized way is to approach the courts. It's to knock on the doors of the police, have a case registered, argue your case in court with evidence to prove your bona fides. The other intolerant way, of course, is to take a bulldozer and, viewers, clear out the land, saying that this land belongs to only one community, and that is because it's madrasa land. Take the law into your own hands and exact punishment. Far too often, viewers, we are seeing these extrajudicial measures. We saw them when the community thought that their fundamentals had been insulted, and now, viewers, when they think that a land that they claim was to be used for the madrasa had been encroached upon. Viewers, first listen to the ground reportage. Mohit Bhatt literally has risked life and limb to do this story. Watch.
Today we are reporting from the Palamu district over here in Jharkhand. Times Now is the only channel who is at the spot because we bring out the real news and the real stories that are there in our country, and we see that a section of media, the section of a liberal lobby will neglect this. They will not tweet on this, they will not fact check this, because it's about the Dalits and the Muslims and how Muslims have completely raised the society over here. Around 50 to 20 houses, and what you see on the ground is not just the debris or the stones over here. These are the remains of houses of Mahadalits which were being razed down by the members of Muslim community. What they say is that they were beaten up by the members of the Muslim community, and the Muslim community members said that this land belongs to the Eidgah and hence they have no right to live over here.
ईदगाह की जमीन इस पे किसी पे नोटिफाइड नहीं है।
यह ईदगाह की जमीन नहीं है और यह मदरसा का जमीन है।
ये जीएम लैंड है।
जी हाँ, जीएम लैंड है।
परिवारों का ये भी आरोप है कि शिवलिंग तोड़ा गया, मंदिर तोड़ा गया, उनके हाथ जोड़ते हैं।
यह देखने वाली बात है। यहाँ देखिए तुलसी का पौधा वहाँ पड़ा हुआ है।
जी बिल्कुल, मैं अपने कैमरा पर्सन अली नरोड़ा से कहूँगा आप दिखाइए।
यह सनातनी है कि सनातन धर्म में लोग
ये किस तरह से यहाँ पे जो देखिए आप
शिव जी का पूजा करते हैं,
इनकी ये शिवलिंग की पूजा करते थे। यहाँ पे जो है पूरा ये जो है तुलसी का एक मंदिर बना रखा है।
सनातन धर्म में आस्था का केंद्र ही है। वो पत्थर को ही पूजते हैं और भगवान मानते हैं।
ये भी तोड़ा गया बिना
जी, उसे भी
वो ये कह रहे हैं कि हम हाथ जोड़ते रह गए, हम हाथ जोड़ते रह गए।
जेसीबी लगा करके तोड़ा गया, उसमें किसी चीज को बरगलाया नहीं गया कि इसको साइड किया जाए।
Muslims have completely razed the society over here. Around 50 to 20 houses were being completely razed over here by Muslim community forcefully with the use of JCB. The questions are also being raised on the Hemant Soren government.
Some of these individuals that you're seeing, viewers, are today living on the roadsides. As I said, they've been turned into refugees in their own land. The police in the area assembled them in a building that is little used as a temporary housing structure. Times now reached this spot to speak to the survivors of this carnage. The survivors claim that the perpetrators are local Muslims, their own neighbors. Despite their desperate pleas, they were abused, thrashed, and their homes razed. Listen to some of these people talking to Times Now.
A shocking incident has come to light from Palamu district, where the houses of Mahadalit who were living over here, they were completely razed down.
हम लोग 1-1.5 बरस से वहाँ रहे थे, खानदानी जगह जमीन हम लोग का है सर, तो वहाँ हम लोग रह रहे थे 3 बरस से चल कर वहाँ, और हम लोग सब पूरा 4400 आदमी का हम लोग के ट्रैक्टर में बुकिंग करके वहाँ बिका गया है सर।
तो अच्छा ये बताइए कि जब बुलडोजर लाया गया, जेसीबी लाई गई, आप सबके घर तोड़े गए?
हाँ, इसराइल मुखिया घर तोड़वाए हैं साहब। इसराइल मुखिया, हाँ, खड़ा होकर इसराइल मुखिया घर तोड़वाए हैं हम लोग।
की बात है, परसों की बात है? परसों
रोज की बात है सर, कल सांझ के बात है साहब। कल तक लेटेस्ट भी वहाँ चला है साहब।
कल तक भी कितने लोग हैं? आप क्या मांग करते हैं आप, और खास तौर पे कौन कौन लोग थे? आप लोगों को पहचाना कौन है, कौन कौन लोग थे, और उन्होंने आपसे क्या कहा आपके घर तोड़ते हैं?
सब मियाँ लोग हैं सर। सर वहाँ के मियाँ थे, मुफ्तदार डीलर थे सर, जनक थे सर, और गोविंद पाल थे, और वहाँ के।
और क्या कहा गया आपसे? जमीन आपकी नहीं है, कहा क्या गया?
रसूल मियाँ सर।
क्या कहा क्या गया आपसे? क्यों तोड़ रहे हैं आपके मकान?
कह रहा है कि उन लोग बोल रहा है पूरा मियाँ समाज की यहाँ नहीं रहना है, भागो यहाँ से, तुम लोग नहीं भागोगे तो काट देंगे बल्ले बच्चे को।
धमकियां भी दी गई?
हाँ जी, मारपीट भी किया
प्रशासन की तरफ से। आपको मारपीट भी करी गई?
हमारा हाथ धोआ के सब लगा के ढोस दिया है मालिक, मेरा शिवलिंग सब बिक दिया है। हाँ, सब भी तोड़ दिया।
They are living in fear. They are again saying that if the proper protection is not being given to them, then they are also living in fear. But the question is, how exactly and how does people from a certain community had the audacity to raise down their houses with a bulldozer, and what exactly was the administration doing?
Viewers, out of the entire mob, 3 people have been apprehended. In fact, if you listen to the local officials in charge of this case, they say that a FIR has been filed against the unnamed. This despite, on record, those that are the victims of this hate have named the perpetrators. This is the state of affairs, viewers, in a state ruled by the Congress and the JMM. Now, viewers, let's take you back in time a little bit. A few months ago, when the Yogi government decided to employ bulldozers on those who had been notified as encroachers, and those, viewers, who were rioters, who had also committed the sin of encroaching on public land, Yogi government was called Islamophobic. Yogi government was accused of resorting to extrajudicial methodologies to exact vendetta, revenge. This is what was said. Stop bulldozers of hate in Uttar Pradesh. Immediately, viewers, these bulldozers were communalized. This is state-sponsored targeting. Has Rahul Gandhi reacted to what is happening in a Congress-ruled state? The Palamu exodus? No. It's quiet. Asaduddin Owaisi, Yogi is punishing poor Muslims. Has he reacted to the oppression, to the intolerance against these Hindus? No. Silent. P. Chidambaram, vigilante justice is death for the law. Here, viewers, instead of going to the police, knocking the doors of the courts, this entire group turned upon the Hindus. Completely extrajudicial measures were employed. They took the law into their own hands, administered lashings, thrashings, razed their homes, reduced them to rubble. Has Chidambaram commented? No. Brinda Karat, bulldozing of justice by Yogi. Viewers, it goes on. Rioters targeted by bulldozers. Hindutvavadis punishing Muslims. That was, of course, the PFI. No one came out, viewers, today or yesterday in defense of these Hindus. It just doesn't suit their narrative. It just doesn't. In fact, viewers, when we went up and sought reactions, this entire group said this was a massive conspiracy. Listen.
हमने घटना को छिपाया नहीं, हमने उस पर पर्दा नहीं डाला। पर्दा डालने वाले लोग गुनहगार होते हैं। घटना होती है, प्रशासन और पुलिस सक्रियता के साथ अपराधियों को दबोचती है। आप ये समझिए कि उत्तर प्रदेश की जो हथरस की घटना थी, सीधा मुख्यमंत्री अपने मंत्रियों को बचाते हैं।
देखिए, योगी की बात आपने की, तो योगी जी और हेमंत जी में बेसिक डिफरेंस क्या है? योगी जी की सरकार जहां दुराचारियों को माला पहनाती है और हेमंत सोरेन की सरकार त्वरित कार्रवाई करती है। अभी दुमका की घटना देख लें चाहे आप, उस सब से आप देखें डिफरेंस पता चल जाएगा, डिफरेंस ऑफ गवर्नेंस। उत्तर प्रदेश की आपने बात की, वहां तो लॉलेसनेस है, वहां तो थाने में बलात्कार होता है, इसलिए वहां से तुलना न किया जाए।
क्या है पूरा मामला, इसकी पूरी जानकारी भी हमें नहीं है। हम प्रयास कर रहे हैं पूरी जानकारी लेने का, लेकिन हम पूरा विश्वास दिलाते हैं, क्योंकि झारखंड में सरकार में हमारी पार्टी भी शामिल है, कि झारखंड की सरकार, शासन और प्रशासन सबके साथ न्याय करेगा और जो भी दोषी होंगे उन पर कार्रवाई होगा, चाहे वो कोई हो। इस तरह की घटनाओं को भारतीय जनता पार्टी जिस जिस राज्य में सरकार में नहीं है वहां तूल दे रही है।
Viewers, let's open this up because you will hear more apologists now. More who are going to try and divert the attention. Let's go straight across. Let me first begin with Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress party. Mr. Jindal, I want to ask you. You talk about due process being ignored in Yogi Adityanath's Uttar Pradesh. Fair enough. What about here, Mr. Jindal? An FIR against unnamed people. Excuses are being made for this action. Open buck passing. Rahul Gandhi hasn't visited. Till the last time I checked, he hasn't even commented. Your party is silent. Swings like. Why, Mr. Jindal? What's going on? Are some lives less equal than others? Do they matter less than others? What's the issue? Be frank tonight. Be upfront. Be upfront. If it is the case, just tell us. It's okay. I'm not going to hold you responsible. It's okay.
It's never about Hindus or Muslims. It's always about the poor and vulnerable sections of society.
Then why does Rahul Gandhi use the term bulldozers of hate.
Because
Why do those who support you
the BJP
in the
government
left,
that is ruling
excuse me,
Uttar Pradesh,
in the left and other political parties talk about Hindutvavadi bulldozers? Why?
Yes.
Then it's about religion. When Yogi rolls out the bulldozer, you make it about religion. Here it's about secularism. Here you're secularizing the bulldozer. How does this work?
Sir, the idea of state that BJP thrives upon is based upon religion. The idea that India is to be identified with
Are
Hindu
you
religion.
saying that these poor oppressed people who are from the most marginalized segment of the Hindu population are lying when
No,
they
they are
say
not
that
lying.
their oppressors
Not-
are Muslims? Why did
No,
these Muslims, fair
what-
enough, no, 1 second. 1 second. Why did these locals decide to even demolish the tulsi trees and the places of worship? You could have spared those. These people are saying we beg them not to demolish our shivlings, etc. Now you tell me, is this not a hate crime?
Yes.
Rahul, first of all, when I'm talking about this incident, it's a very unfortunate incident, and the state administration has to come into action to protect the vulnerable and the downtrodden and marginalized sections of the society. But it is never about Hindus and Muslims. So when I'm talking about the vulnerable sections, it could be Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir, it could be Hindus in
Which
Punjab.
you gave
it
no
could
justice to.
be Gujarat.
Which
So when
you
I'm
gave no
talking
justice
about
to.
the-
Neither did you give the... No, 1 second. The Nadigram... No, 1 second. The Hindus massacred in Nadigram justice. Neither did you give the Sikhs justice. I know.
What
It's never about... It's
Not
never
expect-
about communalism for the
the
Congress.
favor of the majority.
Right.
The state has to act as a welfare state. It has to act as a shepherd dog for all those who are the vulnerable and marginal
Mr.
sections of the
Jindal's
society.
party that has won elections only on the back of creating, viewers, creating little vote banks by chopping up the population, dicing them up into little blocks. That's the legacy of the Congress party. Unfortunately, all other parties have also fallen into that trap. But, viewers, who created the Ahinda bloc? Who created the Asgar bloc? The Congress party.
No.
And they are talking about,
Congress always
they are
talked
talking about, no, hang on. They are
one
talking about a
ident-
secular politics that is above identity. Who are you kidding today, Mr. Jindal?
Not, sir. I can prove it with facts. Congress always wanted a single identity all over the country. That was India. That
Right.
was the reason.
Do you
was
support
not
the UCC?
organized.
Do you support the UCC?
That's why you partitioned India.
Of course.
No, do you support it?
Has to be gradual. The manner in which UCC
Do you
is to
support
be
the UCC or do you call it a Hindutva project? If you actually had no problems about unifying, communities and imposing a hard secularism, you would have no problem with UCC. Should I read out what your leaders say about the UCC, sir?
It was the Congress which
Should I
was
tell you what the UCC is referred to by Congress leaders? I'll show you. I'll read it out. Don't
Please.
come here and fool people, sir.
We are not fooling people.
Okay.
We are standing by our
Okay, fair
ethos.
enough. So it's not
Principle.
about religion here. This is not about religion.
Yes.
This is not about
It's
religion. Okay, let me bring in Abhijit
society.
Iyer Mitra. How do you react to this? Karan Verma, Gargi Nandi Roy. First, Abhijit Iyer Mitra. How do you react to Mr. Jindal's protestations here that this is not about religion?
Look, it is very much about religion, because understand, the section of society
Right.
that Dalits in India inhabit is also the same part that Sunni Muslims here inhabit. Remember, the Shia are way ahead in terms of their socio-economic development. Shias are amongst the richest community in India, and they've always been very progressive. They've gotten rid of triple talaq long back. The Sunnis still have this, hum is desh pe rule karte the, and that kind of hangover. And they choose the worst kind of leaders you can possibly get. They, because they themselves are stuck in a vicious cycle. They choose demagogues who keep giving them dreams and things like that, and achieve nothing. So what happens here is, technically, if this was not about religion, assume this community was a Muslim community, do you think this attack could have happened? It would have been a shared ground which they could have shared completely.
That do not happen on
Obviously,
Muslims.
they do not see themselves as part of this community, which is why they came and attacked. They do not, they may see them as neighbors, but they have an economic incentive to go land grabbing. And this is, of course, how Sunni polity is. The depressed Sunni polity. Remember, there are very few very rich Sunni leaders in this country who have essentially used their community for their own personal gain and done absolutely nothing for the community. But in this particular case, religion had everything to do with it. Had these people also been Muslim, they would have not been removed from here. Had their right to live there. I don't know what the legal basis of this case is. Is it occupied land? Is it granted land or whatever?
Well, it is state land which was occupied. It belongs to nobody. And therefore, the state should have been left to the state to take any action. But the reason these Hindus were exorcised, in a sense, kicked out, is because the community, the local community there, which is in dominant numbers, claimed it for a madrasa. That much has been established. So there was an implicit, if not explicit, religious basis to all of this. And the party that came up with Hindu terror, saffron terror, all sorts of connotations, whose own leader cried buckets at Batla House, is telling us that we never look at things from a Hindu-Muslim perspective. What can be more shocking than this?
If you remember, Batla House was the biggest conspiracy theory around.
Can I
Well, Mr. Jindal, what would you like to say?
Sir, first of all, when you say that only they ruled India and not the Shias, let me tell you, it was Nadir Shah.
Sir, please, I'm only asking you to answer the question. On what basis are you denying that this is religious? No. If it wasn't religious, then why have the temples and why? Look, I'm not here trying to spread hate here and trying to divide communities. All I'm saying is, for God's sakes, let us accept what these things are, so we can proceed under the right sections of the law to punish this. That's what we want. There are certain laws that are applied, viewers, to hate crimes. They should be applied. Otherwise,
Rahul, I want to rebut Lokesh
Jindal. Okay. No, one second. Let Mr. Jindal come up with his face saver.
Can I come?
Yes. No, one second. Mr. Jindal, tell me.
You stated that land was the issue, and it was mostly related to the dominant as well as the vulnerable sections. So why are we bringing religion in between over here? Instead of Muslims had any religion, any community that could have been in a to abuse power, they would have used it so as to grab land. So the point is, we need additional safeguards for those who are vulnerable and downtrodden.
No, I'm sorry. No. If these people had been Muslims, if they were not
Mr. Lokesh Jindal, I think I need to come.
Would you think this would have happened?
Rahul, please let me rebut him, please.
No, 1 second. I actually have exposed Mr. Jindal.
Yeah.
I asked him if it's not about religion, if it's only about the law, it's about uniformity, it's about building unity in this country, why does the Congress have a problem with the UCC? Because they communalized it. And let me quote M.I. Shahnawaz of the Congress said in 2016, when the government referred the UCC issue to the Law Commission. He raised the issue during 0 hour. M.I. Shahnawaz of the Congress said Muslims have accepted the criminal laws in all matters and wondered why the government was intruding upon their civil laws when there were so many important issues facing the country. Why prick the conscience of Muslims? Immediately inject it into an attempt to secularize personal laws, viewers, in this country, to codify them above and beyond particularities of any community. These people communalize that exercise. The Congress party.
No, can I answer? Can I reply,
What
please?
are you answering me, sir? This is your response in Parliament. What are you going to tell me? That he was wrong? You should have got up and said he was wrong.
I want to rebut you.
Yeah.
The conceptions that you're having about Congress. Congress,
Yeah.
Okay. Look, sir. Look, the question was very simple. I've caught you out on facts. let us not make a bad situation worse. Back up here, accept what it is. Accept that there can be bigotry in Congress-ruled states like there was in the past. It's okay. It's okay.
Sir, let me tell you, when you're talking about Uniform Civil Code, the issue is not recent. It was in 19th century, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and various Muslim reformers. They also aimed at bringing about certain socio-religious reforms. But
I think today we will not talk about history.
Now he is quoting an individual who is the birther of partition. Viewers, there is just no getting around the fact that the Congress here on this show is excavating a massive hole for itself. Let's not go. You have a very, very poor understanding of history, sir, or perhaps it's blinkered. I can't make out what it is.
I really want to rebut Lokesh. Rahul, please let me come for 1 minute.
Yes, okay. Miss Roy. Yes, Miss Roy. Go ahead. Yeah. What would you like to say? Miss Roy, yes.
Okay, Lokesh, you know the problem with the secular parties like Congress or JMM is that they keep a blind eye deliberately for their vote bank politics to the threat of radical Islamism, which is a threat to our civilization. And this kind of incident, if you look back at history is full of this kind of incident. Maybe the scale is large or small. So because they are following their rule book, let's not forget.
But one second, Miss Roy, one second. This particular issue, one second, Miss Roy, one second. Just give us 30 seconds. Hang on. I want to bring this debate back to the real point here, viewers, which is about hypocrisy. Karan Verma is there. You also have from the Ulema Council and the RJD. Senior leader of the RJD is here, Syed Faisal Ali. Mr. Ali, in Jharkhand, under the JMM Congress, by the way, viewers, there is no government there right now. There's only the Chief Minister. All the MLAs, most of the coalition MLAs are sitting in another neighboring state of Chhattisgarh. The Chief Minister himself is awaiting a rap on his knuckles from the governor. If the governor comes out and gives a report that has been prepared by the Election Commission and gives it to Mr. Soren, he'll have no choice but to step down. So in effect, there is really no government right now in Jharkhand. They are busy only in guarding their self-interests. Right. So Mr. Ali, I would have thought that you'd have taken a more enlightened view tonight and you'd have said, what is happening is wrong. This is extrajudicial. This is bigotry. It needs to be called out, just like you call it out in Uttar Pradesh under the Yogi government. Be fair.
Rahul, I was hearing your opening remarks and I have heard my fellow panelists. I have a few observations and a few questions with you and the panelists.
Sure.
I saw your reportage also. Your reporter was on ground zero and he was reporting. But my humble submission, Rahul, is there any statement from the local authorities with you?
Yes, sir.
Have you spoken to the Deputy Commissioner of Palamu?
I'll play it out.
Have you or your reporter spoken to the SDO subdivisional?
Let's play it out. Let's play it out. A. Dode, DC of Palamu. Let's play it out. This is what he says. Go ahead.
Simply a land dispute between that one person and other Dalit community. They are वो लैंड डिस्प्यूट के चलते प्रॉब्लम आया है, तो हम लोग इमीडिएटली एक्शन लिया है और लोगों को जो भी हटाया गया है उनको ऊपर हम लोग एफआईआर किया है. अराउंड 3 लोगों को अभी ऑलरेडी जेल भी भेज चुका है, 12 लोगों को पर एफआईआर बाई नेम एफआईआर किया है. और वहाँ लैंड डिस्प्यूट जहाँ है, जो एग्जिस्टिंग लैंड डिस्प्यूट है, वहाँ हम लोग 144 सेक्शन भी लगा के उसमें अभी एज एंड टुडे स्टेटस को मेंटेन कर रहे हैं. और 150 लोगों के ऊपर ये लोग अज्ञात एफआईआर किया है. एंड वी बिकॉज दे नेवर हैड एनी काइंड ऑफ परमानेंट सेटलमेंट एंड उनके लिए अभी ज़मीन हम लोग आपके सामने मैं जाके देखा हूँ. वी आर गोइंग टू सेटल द लैंड टू देम एंड वी विल सेटल देम परमानेंटली. वी विल अकोमोडेट अंडर देम इधर अंडर द प्रॉमिस्ड आवास योजना और अम्बेडकर आवास योजना घर बना देंगे हम लोग.
Now viewers, a complete attempt to turn this into a mere land dispute when those who are the afflicted are saying
Rahul, let me finish.
Mr. Ali, let me just tell the viewers, the full story here.
Okay.
Under the law, viewers, please, if anyone from that community, from the Dalit community, comes out and alleges discrimination, a whole different set of laws are meant to be applied. This is xenophobia. None of the laws that apply to an act of xenophobia or hate crime have been pressed in. The whole attempt is to divorce this because it doesn't suit the vote bank. The entire secular discourse, for example, the RJD, the Samajwadi Party, the Baspa, others, are all trying to build coalitions between meme and bheem to show that there is some sort of a problem between meme and bheem becomes very inconvenient. So an attempt is made to say, look, this is not a hate crime, because the vote bank, viewers, gets affected. And therefore I began by saying to you, a crime is not a crime if a Hindu is not the oppressor and the oppressed is not a Muslim in their book. It is not a communal crime because it goes against their politics. Now, Mr. Ali, please respond.
Yeah. See, even the Deputy Commissioner of Palamu, Dode, has very clearly said that the land under question was not settled to those people, those Mahadalits. The matter of the fact is that the land belongs to a particular community. And for the last 30 years, they are paying the land rent. All revenue documents are there in the
community, sir, are you saying
office.
Is entitled
Ramesh
to take
Shah,
bulldozers?
The SDO of let me. No. Let me finish. No, please don't make it Hindu and Muslim issue.
Right.
I know that you people are very much worried and you people want to pull Jharkhand government down. Okay. You are saying that there is no government in Jharkhand, and you were silent when the entire cabinet of Maharashtra was sitting in Guwahati and shuttling between Guwahati and Indore and Ahmedabad. Then the Times Now and other channels were silent.
Have you seen our coverage? No, 1 minute. Did you see our coverage? No, excuse me, sir. Did you see our coverage?
Yes.
At that time, no. Then you are completely ill-informed. You are spreading fake news because of first thing. 1 minute. Let me finish now. No, hang on. You can't make these personal allegations.
No, you are spreading.
Excuse me.
You are spreading, and I am very responsibly, I'm saying
where Times Now has pulled up. 1 second, has pulled up. No, please, you can't get away by. Listen, boss. Listen, my dear friend. Listen, chief. Listen, Mr. Ali. You can't come here on Times Now and spread canards. Completely divorced from the facts. Now let me put the facts on the table. Viewers, let me finish. Let me finish. You can't. I'm not going to allow you, sir. I am not going to allow you to lie on national TV. Times Now doesn't give a platform to people who mislead the public.
No, I will not allow you to lie. I will not allow you to lie and make it come alive.
One second. You are raising issues about the coverage and you don't want me to respond and clear the air with examples.
No.
Are you running some sort of a Jungle Raj debate here, sir?
Check the land revenue receipt.
No, you can go ahead. No. You can go ahead and make all sorts of allegations. You can say and spew all sorts of fake news, but the other side doesn't have the right to put the facts before the viewer. Is that your idea of democracy and democratic exchange? Sorry, I am not going to get into a... No, I'm not going to get into a verbal duel with you, sir. Mr. Ali, you have all the right. Go ahead. Lie. I will prove to you within minutes.
We are the people who have shown their country and given a direction to the country.
Mr. Ali, a party like the RJD that has built its own politics.
What do you mean? What do you mean by
built its own politics?
RJD?
I am telling you. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish.
How can you say this?
Allow me to finish. I'll tell you how I can say it. A party that has built its politics, viewers.
Yes, and give me the chance to rebut.
A party that has built its politics around appeasing Bahubalis is sitting here and giving us lectures.
A party
that is led by a person who has gone to jail for corruption is giving us lectures on propriety. Has Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav gone to jail for corruption, yes or no? Has he gone to jail for corruption, yes or no?
Not even around.
Has he gone to jail for corruption, yes or no?
No. Whom you...
I'm talking about Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav. Has he gone to jail for corruption, yes or no? Has he gone to jail for corruption, yes or no?
Tell me. What I am asking,
why aren't you answering the question? Has Lalu Prasad Yadav, your party chief, your supremo, gone to jail for corruption, yes or no? Has he been convicted not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, but 5 times for corruption, yes or no?
Like you people.
Mr. Ali, don't talk about you people. We are all Indians. There's no sub judice matter. He was in jail. He was convicted.
Yes, I can.
5 cases for a scam, convicted.
Like how can you say?
A government that gave absolute free run to people like Shahabuddin in jail. Are you telling us about propriety tonight?
Remember, it was a man from Patna in 1924.
You have an agenda, sir. I am not going to get into this agenda with you. I am going to rest my case. You can abuse us. You can say whatever you want to. You can abuse us, sir. You can say whatever you want to. I will humbly take your abuse because I am not going to suffer in any which way an image crisis by what you say.
You are pursuing an agenda to pull down the Jharkhand government and bring the meme and beam amne samne.
Right.
This is what your agenda is.
Okay, fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's all very well. When Hathras happened, viewers,
you people need to be responded in this way.
When Hathras happened, viewers, this same lot of parties landed up there to build a huge, they say, huge fight between the upper castes and the Dalits. That's what they did. And they are today turning around and pointing fingers. The facts are the facts, viewers. Times Now is very critical of the manner in which the Hathras situation was controlled by the Yogi government. We took on the Yogi government for the hasty decision to cremate the body. Viewers, when it's wrong, it's wrong. You should have the guts to speak up for what is wrong. Today we are going to be told that, oh, the land belonged to X, but these people were there, they were asked to leave, and therefore you see, it happens, disputes happen, bulldozers roll, people come, they're allowed to do all of this.
It was a government land.
1 second, I want to bring in Mr. Karan Verma. Karan Verma, yes, go ahead.
It's not a government land.
Yeah.
It is a government land, by
Rahul,
sometimes
it's the land.
Government land. It's a government land.
It's a government land.
Can I come in?
By the way.
Can I come in?
It doesn't belong to any community.
Can I speak, please?
It's a government land, yes.
Yeah.
Very clearly, you rewind.
Rahul, sometimes it's the land, as in today's case. Sometimes it's that they have plum postings. This is what they came up with in Kashmir. The truth is, the root of the problem is the expansionist and the supremacist nature of radical Islam that these political parties don't want to take on because of their vote bank considerations. Hemant Soren, the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, 2 months back, Rahul, I came on your debate, June 10th, and they dragged their feet when protesters were wreaking havoc on the streets of Ranchi, and their MLA, Congress MLA Irfan Ansari, reprimanded their own city SP, and they took down the posters of those who were allegedly involved in rioting and rampaging mobs, and the police was crying for help, and Hemant Soren at that time capitulated at this time of adversity only and only because of vote bank considerations. This is not the first time this government has dragged its feet. They have been a habitual offender, and so have so many political parties been. This has happened in Kashmir, this has happened in Malda, Murshidabad. It has happened in so many places. Dhumri, Barpeta, Mallapuram, Kairana, and the list goes on. Until and unless...
Some indisputable facts. Let me also put out the facts that Mr. Ali will not try to contest or perhaps deny. According to the NCRB data, Jharkhand has recorded the second highest number of cases under the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act for the third consecutive year, 2019, 2020, 2021.
Which is on the top? Uttar Pradesh.
It doesn't matter, sir.
Uttar Pradesh
It doesn't matter whether it is Uttar Pradesh or not. We are bothered right now about Jharkhand. Uttar Pradesh may have the worst record.
But you are secular, right? You are talking about Jai Bhim and Jai Meme.
1 second. It might have the worst record. They need to clean up their record. It doesn't behove them.
But you won't do a debate on them.
Has there been an atrocity right now? We are talking about this atrocity, sir. In fact, there was one which you haven't referred to in Uttar Pradesh, which was just 2 days back. A killing of a Dalit youth by three. A killing of a Dalit youth by three individuals. 1 second. You didn't talk about that either. The killing of a Dalit youth by 3 individuals that belong to the minority community. Did you talk about it?
Now again, you
did he go there? Did he go there to Basti? Did he go to Basti? I'm asking you. Did he go there? No, he didn't. No Rahul Gandhi went, no Priyanka Gandhi went. Ladki hu, lad sakti hu, but not for this young woman.
Because we simply want to keep the
debate moving around Hindu and Muslim.
One small point, Rahul, if you allow.
1 second.
One small point.
Yes.
If you allow.
Sure. Rahul, one thing.
You know, Rahul, they had this pathological hatred for the bulldozer in UP. They went crazy that the bulldozer is being used on these rioters. Where is that contempt and hatred for the bulldozer that is being used on innocent Dalits? Why are you not crying copious tears? Why are you not coming out and condemning the bulldozer?
The Dalit card was
this
used.
Is your hypocrisy.
1 second. The Dalit card was used several times. The Una assault case 2016, Hathras rape case 2020, Delhi minor Dalit girls death in 2021. All of them were given a Dalit versus upper caste angle. But Mr. Rushdie, today we are being told this is a simple land dispute, simple crime. It's okay. This too shall pass.
If an angle was given of Dalit versus upper caste, so now today you are trying to give an angle of Dalit versus Muslim.
I am only calling out, sir, the inconvenience.
Is that what you're trying to do?
I am only calling out the hypocrisy. When you spread hate in another state where you are not in power, it is okay. But when it comes to your own state, you will not acknowledge the facts on the ground because it is inconvenient to you. I am therefore going out there to expose Mr. Rushdie. I am only, look, it's okay. I understand your compulsion.
Let me respond.
Please
There's
respond.
no compulsion, Rahul. There's no compulsion of Yogi ji and Modi ji and Amit Shah on me. I'll speak these truths. I'll speak the truth. That's as simple as that. If a lobby was trying to make it an issue of Dalit versus upper caste, why are you and the lobby and the panelists sitting trying to make it an issue, convert it into a Muslim versus Dalit card? It's a land dispute. It's as simple as that, which is straightforward. That is what the FIR is saying. 3 people have been arrested. 12 have been named. 150 Muslim men and women have been named in FIR, which is filed under non-relevant acts of
Okay. Okay, viewers. Let's accept what they're saying. Fair enough. Sir, fair enough. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Mr. Rushdie, fair enough. Mr. Rushdie, fair enough. Mr. Rushdie, fair enough. The next time there is an action such as this in any other state, I will quote the same words back to you. And you please be there. And you please accept it for what it is. Okay, at that time. Let me tell you, viewers, if it was a simple land dispute, why is the community's flag? 1 second, sir. Religious symbols belonging to that community, why have they been desecrated? You can see those pictures. You can see those pictures on your screen. Yes. Temples were desecrated. The Tulsi tree was uprooted. The flags that belong to a particular community, you can see, have been ripped, torn apart.
Can I say something?
And I'm not saying this, viewers. It is it is those who have suffered, who are saying it. Now, 1 second. Lower everyone's faces. We can either accept what the victims and the survivors are saying, or we can turn a blind eye. If these individuals are happy turning a blind eye, more fool them. Nothing can be done, viewers. I began by saying that this narrative will not suit this group of people, the ecosystem. It doesn't. It goes against their politics. And that's why you will not see this story on any other news channel in the mainstream media either. It doesn't suit their narrative. Remember that. Turn on your sets right now to any other channel and test this. You will not see this story. I will move on, viewers, to another very important story in Karnataka. In Karnataka, viewers, we have a very, very piquant situation. And I want to focus on that for a few moments. Viewers, would you prostrate before someone accused of molesting minors? Girls are barely teenagers in this case. Viewers, I'm sure that many of you would not give that accused the benefit of doubt. You would say that these people are sick in the mind and they deserve no attention, no respect. But in Karnataka, such a man is getting clean chits from politicians. The accused we are talking about, viewers, is an influential Lingayat seer. You can see him in the middle of your screens. Who is surrounding him? These are all the politicians who are speaking up, falling over themselves to give him a clean chit. The BJP, the Congress, the JDS, everybody. Everybody, without exception. No politician can afford to anger him because with elections around the corner, they need his vote and the vote of millions of his devotees. This is a story very inconvenient for the political class of Karnataka that I am touching upon tonight, viewers. If you and I face such grave allegations, we would not be able to show our face in public. The police would have taken us to jail and perhaps even thrown away the key, but the pontiff of Muruga Rajendra Mutt is not just holding court as if nothing has happened, but even though he has been booked under the stringent POCSO Act, is yet to be questioned by the police. One reason could be that the pontiff of the Mutt continues to enjoy the support of politicians across the state. Former Karnataka Chief Minister of the Bharatiya Janata Party, B.S. Yadurappa, was the first politician to extend support to the Lingayat seer and called him innocent. Innocent. Even before the probe, the police can begin looking into this matter. He even said he's been falsely implicated. Several other BJP, Congress, JDS leaders have been frequenting the Mutt or giving him character certificates. You don't believe me? Listen in, viewers. Listen in.
ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಮಠದಲ್ಲಿರೋದೇ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಷಡ್ಯಂತ್ರ ಇದು. ತನಿಖೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಸತ್ಯಾಸತ್ಯತೆ ಹೊರಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲದರಿಂದ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೊರಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಡೀ ನಾಡಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನ ಗೌರವ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ವಿರುದ್ಧ FIR ಆಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ನೋಡೋಣ ಇವತ್ತು ಅದು ಒಳಜಗಳ. ಬಸವರಾಜನ ಮಾಜಿ ಶಾಸಕ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಜಗಳ, ಅದ್ರ ಮ್ಯಾಗ ಈ ಗಾಡಿ ಹಚ್ಚಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಂಟಿದೆ ಅದು ಏನು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೋತದೆ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಂಥವೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಆರೋಪ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಪ್ಪು. ಇಂಥ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಇರೋರು ಒಂದಿಬ್ಬರು ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Yes, see, from childhood I am following this mutt. So it is my duty to come and meet Swami. That it will take its own course. If they are really guilty, then see, unless it is proved, I cannot say anything. But unless, see, if you allow me, I will also go and meet the children also. But the police people and the department is not allowing me to go there and talk to the children.
No, because it is a religious head and lakhs together people, devotees for the Muruga Matta Sri, and there is allegations and counter allegations also there. And Swamiji already expressed that is some vested interest. These all false allegations have been made. it is all, everything will come out, only proper investigation.
I don't know the fact. According to me, I have seen that he is a very noble man who has done some great contribution to the state. Let me leave it to the, let me not interfere with the whatever the police or the government is doing it, because I can't only reply to whatever you are telling. Let me examine it, then I'll come back to you.
ಅಣ್ಣ ನಾನು ಮಠದ ಭಕ್ತನಾಗಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು 5 ದಿನದಿಂದ ನಾನು ಮಠದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
I'm an ardent follower of the Mutt. It's a conspiracy. I'm going to examine the matter. He's a good man, done good work. Viewers, it's absolutely cringeworthy. And let's open this up. Premila Nasargi, lawyer and activist, BJP sympathizer. Abha Singh, lawyer and activist. George Kurian, Congress sympathizer. Also, Rahul Ishwar, an activist, are with us. I want to ask you, Premila Nasargi, and let me quote to you the POXO Act. You also hold an office in the state. The POXO Act says presumption as to certain offences. Where a person is prosecuted for committing or abetting or attempted to commit any offence under Section 357 and Section 9 of this Act, the special court shall presume that such person has committed or abetted or attempted to commit the offence, as the case may be, unless the contrary is proven. Therefore, the burden of proof falls on the seer, ma'am. Even before the probe can begin, the very fact that he has been booked under the POXO Act means that he should be arrested. Why is this not happening? 5 days have passed. 5 days.
Shall I tell you?
Please.
The very fact that you told me is a presumption. Presumption is only a rebuttable presumption. It is not an absolute presumption. Under law, there is no such thing as absolute presumption. The burden will always be shifted. Rebuttable presumption. Just because somebody files a complaint, that does not mean the accused has committed offence. He is still to be an innocent person until it is proved. You are placing this Swamiji after he has committed. He has not committed any offence in this case. According to he is only alleged of an offence. Alleged of an offence yet to be proved by the prosecution. Only when, then if it is proved, then the question of Swamiji holding guilty or otherwise should come into picture. You are asking me why he is not arrested. Section 41A notice has been issued. Investigation going on meticulously. Every
Viewers,
step has been done.
Miss Nasargi, he has not even been questioned. What probe is going on for 5 days? The first thing you do is to take the accused's statement. He has not even been questioned for 5 days. And your politicians, no, one second, in the state of Karnataka are giving him clean chit on what basis?
I'll answer you. Straight away I'll answer you.
What basis?
Can I tell you straight away? What is the meaning of your word Section 41A? Notice has been
Madam,
given. He has been
Miss Nasargi, let me take on board everything that you are saying. Why is the Chief Minister, the former Chief Minister of Karnataka, already giving him a clean chit? That's the question I'm asking. Who is he?
No, the question is nobody in this country or Chief Minister
Rahul Ishwar, today, 5 days after the POXO Act has been slapped. Rahul Ishwar, 5 days after the POXO Act has been slapped on the Seer, we have a situation where he's not even been quizzed. Politician after politician, you heard the Congress politician, you heard the BJP politicians all saying, he's a good man, clean chit. He has not done it, he's being framed. What do you believe?
He's a good man, don't you?
One second, Miss Nasargi. One second, stop shouting over me, please.
Can we not say that?
Stop shouting over me.
Rahul Shivshankar, just two submissions.
Now, one second. Rahul Ishwar, 2 minors have made a charge. 2 minors. These are innocent minds. don't you think they deserve justice? Even the dignity of seeing that the person that they have charged should at least be questioned. He's standing on balconies and giving speeches and press conferences.
Rahul Shivshankar, just two submissions. He is getting this support not because he's a God man, but he's a good man who has done great work. Second, everyone respects children and their innocence, but there are genuine doubts whether they are being misused by Western interests, whether they are being propelled, used and propped up, tutored by certain Western interests.
Viewers, this was said in the case of Asaram. This was said in the case of Ram Rahim. This was said in the case of Nityananda. This was said in every one of these people's cases. Nityananda, rape and criminal intimidation. If you go and put a mic to his face, he says innocent. He's absconding since 2019. Rape and criminal intimidation.
You cannot brush every case
this particular individual, we don't know, sir. We don't know.
Exactly.
You can't give somebody a clean sheet. Especially the political class cannot stand there and give anybody a clean sheet. They should say the man should be quit. They should say that this is not prejudice, sir. This is procedure. Let me bring in Abha Singh. Is this procedure or prejudice, Abha Singh? Lawyer and activist, Abha Singh.
Rahul, the very fact that they are saying that he's a good man or he's done good work, and they are political people who held positions, important positions in the state, that means you're trying to influence the police investigation. You're trying to tell the IO that you work on these lines. I think it's the right time to move this investigation out of Karnataka to some other state so that they are not influenced. The very important fact is that these are children who've given their statements, and my issue is, why is the police keeping quiet? Why are not they taking action? If they have evidence,
an alibi has already been created.
It doesn't matter.
I think you're absolutely right. An alibi has already been created, Ms. Abha Singh, to suggest that the girls who have recorded their statements before a magistrate are being tutored into doing so. But this is admissible evidence. They have done so before a magistrate. And let me tell you, when Uma Bharti had spoken out in 2013 about Asaram, what she said, Asaram is innocent. False cases have been lodged against him in Congress-ruled states. I am with Saint Bapu. And he was convicted several years later. Viewers, just think about the survivors here for a moment. Forget about everything else. Just think about those children. Amount of pressure they must be under today to take back what they have said. It's not going to be easy because these have been statements recorded in front of a magistrate. I leave it at that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine yourself living in your own state as a refugee, driven out of your own house, your shelter trampled upon by bulldozers, and you being forced to relocate with your families because someone who enjoys the patronage of the high and mighty in the state had set their eyes to grab your land. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Mahadalits in Jharkhand's Palamu are living this trauma inflicted upon them by a Muslim mob led by Mukhtar. Homes of 50 Hindu families have been razed to the ground, their temples bulldozed, and they have been chased away. The state, instead of acting against the mob, has promised them to temporarily rehabilitate them. 48 hours and counting, these people, these Mahadalits, are homeless, shattered and helpless. Even women were not spared. They were abused, thrashed and warned of dire consequences if they raised their voice. Take a look at this report from the epicenter in Palamu.
ये जो सरकार वर्तमान सरकार हेमंत सरकार है, जिहादियों को बढ़ा दिया है। हर एक जगह जहां देखिए अंकिता कांड, तो फलना जगह ही कांड, तो चतरा कांड, और यहाँ भी कांड जो है बहुत दुखद समाचार है। इन लोगों को जमीन देंगे 5 से 10 डिसमिल और अम्बेडकर आवास बनाएंगे और उसके बाद इन लोग को भोजन व्यवस्था सारा चीज हम लोग करेंगे, पढ़ाई की भी व्यवस्था करेंगे।
The BJP MLA has blamed the Soren government for its appeasement that has led to the Muslim mob terrorizing the Mahadalits with impunity. He says that such elements can only be emboldened by the state's silence. Listen in. But what's really appalling is the silence of the lobby on this blatant attack on Mahadalits. They accuse Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath of unleashing bulldozers against Muslims, but have maintained a stoic silence when it comes to atrocities on Hindus. When the UP administration demolished the house of the main conspirator in the Prayagraj riot case, Owaisi thundered that bulldozers were being used against a particular community. When properties of those who were involved in the Kanpur riots were razed, the PFI came out and said that homes of protesters are being bulldozed to silence a single minority community. When the homes of 2 rioters in the Saharanpur case were destroyed, Akhilesh Yadav came out and said that peaceful protesters are being targeted. They are at the forefront of crying Islamophobia, but not a word on Palamu horror from them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Bulldozers in Yogi's UB are anti-Muslim, but are they secular in Hemant Soren's Jharkhand? That's the question and the debate on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Vinod Bansal, national spokesperson of the VHP, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Professor Atikur Rahman, also political analyst. But my first question goes to Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author and scientist. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I want to ask you, Mahadalits in Jharkhand, in a state where the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha and Congress are in alliance, have been thrown out of their land. Their houses have been bulldozed. Their temples have been destroyed. But not one tweet that has come out from the Congress party which says it is the Messiah of Dalits in this country. It is the Messiah of the downtrodden in this country. Not one word for them. While they are busy protecting their MLAs, taking their booze along with them and going to Chhattisgarh to camp out there, nobody is worried about these Mahadalits, 50 families which have been thrown out of their house and their houses have been razed to the ground by bulldozers. I want to ask you, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, why is there such duplicity on these issues?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my co-panelists. Navika, let it be known that this phrase Jai Bhim, Jai Meme is as fictional and as fairy tale a phrase as India is a secular country. You know, in this country, you can attack a Dalit, you can lynch a Dalit, and if a Muslim mob does it, it is considered a suicide, not a murder. But if it was the other way around, if I were to turn it around, it would not only be a murder of the victim, but also of democracy and justice. This is how this gangrenous cabal of propagandists have twisted the narrative. This is how. They have been silent, Navika, on more than 190 Muslim mob attacks on Hindus, Dalits and non-Dalits over the past 3 years, including Bharat Yadav, who was lynched after being called a kafir, including in Ranchi, Same place in Jharkhand where a Muslim mob segregated, Navika, yes, segregated bus passengers based on their religion before wanting to set it on fire, including vandalizing a temple in Delhi while chanting Allahu Akbar and Nara Takbir, including lynching poor Gangaram because he dared to file a police complaint when his daughter was abducted, including going on a ransom and murderous rampage in Bangalore over alleged blasphemy by a Dalit, including breaking a Ambedkar statue, running amok with courts, trashing Dalit families after they objected to a girl, Dalit girl, Sarita, being assaulted by a Muslim, including nearly lynching a Dalit, Jayanti Bhatti, for daring to wear a Pathan suit. Can you believe it? Threatening to kill him if he wears the Pathan suit again. Navika, none of these attacks elicit any outrage. Right from the fake church attacks narrative and running selective hate trackers to multiple stories of fake Jai Shri Ram slogan triggering, they have perfected selective outrage. So we know who Akhlaq was, who Junaid was, but do we know who was Banu or Dalit Khitaram Bhil or Savant Rathod or Vidhu Jain or Ayub or Farooq or Bharat? So while Jai Meme is unconditional, Jai Bhim is conditional upon the perpetrator not being a meme. We have seen this play out almost every day since 2014 by these gangrenous selectivists who claim they speak truth to power, and convince you that this was not a communal hate crime. So what qualifies as a communal hate crime, Navika? Now that the media has its own judgment for it, the mob didn't know that the victim was a kafir or a Dalit, or that whole family or group of families were Dalits, or are you going to demarcate their ire into religion and non-religion components? Very briefly, Navika, take the case of Palghar. The ready identification of a saffron-clad sadhu is not enough. What if instead the victim was a skull-cap-wearing, sherwani-clad, bearded Maulana brought out by the UP police and gifted to the lynchers with a BJP minister looking on? Would the media still have maintained it as a non-communal crime? Hell no, Navika, just 10 seconds. You cannot cure these propagandas. This is the lesson we've learned since 2014, Navika. They are like a rough beach. Their every drop of blood spawns more of the same. You cannot cure them, you can only expose them.
I want to ask you, Tehseen Poonawalla, is democracy not dead today? You have no time to tweet, you have no time to raise your voice, and this is the Congress party which actually stands up for the rights of the Dalits and minorities in this country. But if it is a minority which is going against the Mahadalits, there is stoic silence. I want to ask you, Tehseen Poonawalla, where is your conscience tonight when the government of Jharkhand, which should have been looking after the Mahadalits, which should have been solving the crime of Ankita, is today sitting in Raipur because they have their cartons of booze with them, and therefore they can relax there, even as they say there is an Operation Lotus that's on. What about this Operation Bulldozer in Jharkhand? You have nothing to say on that, Tehseen Poonawalla?
We have a lot to say on that, Navika ji, but at the beginning, let me wish all my fellow panelists and all you viewers a very, very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. May God, Lord Ganesh, Lord of prosperity and good beginnings, give all of us wisdom not to spread such communal hate in our country, because these are the facts of the matter in Jharkhand. The Jharkhand government, under Tehseen Poonawalla versus Union of India Supreme Court orders, passed a mob violence law. That law that would have prevented this incident has not been signed by the governor of Jharkhand, obviously on instructions of Mr. Amit Shah ji or Mr. Modi ji. Incidentally, Mr. Amit Shah ji in Parliament said, we don't require a law for mob violence, despite the Supreme Court saying so. Anand Ranganathan, my dear friend, who I want to congratulate for his recent research work, forgets that in my case, I cited examples of Hindus being lynched by Muslims, including Ayub Pandit. Nobody stood up to support me. Amit Shah said in Parliament, we don't need a law. In Palghar, Anand Ranganathan, it was BJP people involved in the mob violence. So the question is, everywhere there's mob violence, why is there a BJP hand? Now let's come to this case. Unlike Sonbhadra, where the weakest and the poorest of our fellow citizens were shot dead, here the police in Jharkhand not only protected them, the government immediately rehabilitated them. There is a land dispute. This is not a government that has gone and bulldozed people's homes like Aditya Nath ji. This has happened by a mob. Wrong. But the government has protected them, temporarily rehabilitated rehabilitated them and will permanently rehabilitate these Mahadalits. What is happening in Uttar Pradesh? In Sonbhadra, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and the opposition was arrested. Media's phones were tapped, not allowed to go to Sonbhadra to give justice to people who were shot dead. Please do not sit here and compare the two. Jharkhand, even from Raipur, is better administrated than Uttar Pradesh, which is a shame.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Tall claims coming from Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. And Anand Ranganathan, he says the Mahadalits cannot be looked after simply because the mob violence bill has not been passed by Parliament. You mean the existing laws make the government so hapless and the police so hapless that they can't look after people who decimated the houses of these Mahadalits?
Precisely, and here Navika, please allow me just 30 seconds, because while I applaud, and I have applauded beforehand, Tehseen knows this, my good friend, I have applauded that he had also mentioned about the Muslim mob going after Hindus and Hindu hate attacks. He has done it, one of the very few ones. That's why I admire Tehseen. But here, Tehseen, I have a simple question to ask, just to add on to what Navika has asked. Is there any Indian law in the IPC that does not take care of mob violence? Yes or no? It's a simple question, my friend.
No, mob violence is not defined in the CRPC. Unfortunately, it isn't. Therefore, there isn't a specific law, but there are laws to deal with mobs coming in. I agree with that, but mob violence is not.
Sorry to interrupt you. So what Navika said is absolutely right.
There are laws.
Tehseen, 1 second.
Yeah,
what Navika has said, please answer her question. What your excuse that because what you had requested, that law has not been passed, so what is happening to Mahadalits is excusable. I'm sorry, Tehseen, you're a good friend, but what you're saying out here is totally unacceptable. Sorry.
It's unexcusable. If you may please allow me to clarify, I'll just take 10 seconds. My law would have been preventive. This is remedial. However, those people who have attacked will face the full consequences of the law.
When, sir? It's been 48 hours. It's been 48 hours. The women and children do not have a roof over their head while the government is on a picnic in Raipur, and you're saying it will be done. It will be done after a month, after 2 months, after the government survives, after an election. You know, there can't be a timing for this. And Mr. Bansal,
I'll explain that to you.
No, I'm getting in Mr. Bansal. Mr. Bansal, जब कानपुर में राइट्स हुए और बुलडोजर चला तो बहुत दर्द हुई. जब प्रयागराज में राइट्स हुए और बुलडोजर चला तो बहुत दर्द हुई. आज वही बुलडोजर, इतना बड़ा बुलडोजर इनको दिख नहीं रहा, नजर नहीं आ रहा, क्योंकि जवाब नहीं है, क्योंकि ओप्रेसर एक कम्युनिटी है जिनसे इनको वोट चाहिए. क्या यही कहानी नहीं है पलामू की?
नहीं, सिर्फ इतना नहीं, सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं है नाविका जी, इससे आगे भी है. आप देखिए कि स्टोरी बड़ी भयानक और भयंकर है. पलामू वो चित्र है जहां पर के जनजाति समुदाय की बहुतायत होती है और पूरा झारखंड बना था किस लिए? जनजाति समुदाय के उत्थान के लिए, उनकी संस्कृति, उनकी धरोहरों की रक्षा करने के लिए. आज वो जनजातीय समुदाय जो है जिहादी समुदाय हावी है जनजाति समुदाय पर, और ये जिस झारखंड को जनजाति समुदाय का झारखंड होना चाहिए था वो जिहादियों का झारखंड होता जा रहा है. एक के बाद एक लगातार घटनाएं घट रही हैं. नाविका जी, आपको तो पता है सारा रांची हो, पलामू हो या कहीं और हो, आप देखिए लगातार लफ्जियात की घटना हो, उत्पीड़न की घटना हो. अब ये महादलितों के ऊपर जो महाअत्याचार जो हुआ है, इसने तो सारी पराकाष्ठा ही खत्म कर दी. आप देखिए 48 घंटे में अगर सरकार ने कुछ किया है तो ये किया है. आप देखिए कि पुलिस वहां पर गई और पुलिस को भी मार के भगा दिया, और वहां पर जो गांव में गए पुलिस और वहां के लोगों को लेकर के रिहेबिलिटेट करने के लिए, बातचीत करने के लिए, वो समुदाय बात करने को भी तैयार नहीं है. आप देखिए उनके सामने पुलिस सरेंडर कर रही है और दे आर अटैकिंग ऑन द पुलिस एज वेल एज दी महादलित्स. आप मजाक की बात ये है, आप देखिए कि वो जो मॉब है, जो मुस्लिम मॉब है, दैट इज बीइंग लेड बाय मुस्लिम लेडीज. कमाल की बात है. पीछे बैकएंड में सपोर्ट करने वाले इस्लामिक जिहादी हैं, जो आतंकी तत्व के लोग हैं, और आगे कर दिया वही बच्चों को और महिलाओं को. ये जो एक संस्कृति नई विकसित हो रही है इस्लामिक जिहादी समुदाय में, ये बड़ी बेहद खतरनाक है कि आप बच्चों को, महिलाओं को आगे कर दो और जिहाद के लिए आगे उकसाते रहो उनको. आप देखिए कि ये जो है, ये जो कानून की बात कर रहे हैं माननीय कांग्रेस के जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव बैठे हुए हैं, इनसे मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, क्या देश के अंदर पिछले 70 सालों में कोई कानून नहीं था? वो क्या एंटी SC/SC लॉ is not able to deal with all those situations? यहाँ तो कई सारे कानून की एक साथ धज्जियां उड़ रही हैं भाई। आप देखिए कि एंटी टेरर लॉ इन पर लागू होना चाहिए, मैं कहता हूं एंटी SC/ST लॉ का लागू होना चाहिए। यहाँ पर महिला बच्चों का उत्पीड़न जिस तरह से हुआ है, मैं कहता हूं इसमें जो है ये जो बाल आयोग और हमारा महिला आयोग, इनको भी संज्ञान लेना चाहिए। झारखंड में लगातार इस तरह की घटनाएं घट रही हैं। हिंदू समाज 2म दर्जे का नागरिक बनता चला जा रहा है और जिहादी गतिविधियां इस तेज गति के साथ बढ़ी हैं। जब से आपने सुना था कि झारखंड की विधानसभा के अंदर एक मस्जिद बनाई गई थी, उसके बाद तो लगातार खबरों का अंबार लग गया कि वहां तो सरकारी स्कूलों में फ्राइडे को छुट्टी होने लगी, सरकारी स्कूलों में जो प्रार्थना पर प्रतिबंध लग गया, सरकारी
all right, Tehseen wants to come in. Tehseen, 30 seconds to you before I get in Atikur Rahman. 30 seconds. 30 seconds to you.
I want your viewers to know one thing. In the Jharkhand Assembly, no masjid was constructed. Yes, a prayer room was put aside, but there was no masjid constructed, and on national television, lies will not be tolerated. I am sorry.
Why the namaz
I'm sorry,
room is
that's
there?
not a masjid.
What is
That's
the
a prayer room.
The namaz room.
It was called the namaz room. It was not called the prayer room.
My dear sir,
It may have been called anything. Can I please be allowed to
What do you mean by a namaz room is not a prayer room?
I will keep quiet or allow me to clarify.
Dr. Anand Ranganathan,
allow me to clarify.
A namaz room and a prayer room is the same thing.
I have not been able to clarify. I have not been able to clarify. Yes, a namaz room/prayer room where people of any faith. One second. When people of any faith could pray, it was called a namaz room. I don't dispute it. It was not a masjid.
What
you could pray, you could do bhajan.
Masjid is only means for namaz. And where the namaz is performed, it is masjid.
You could have your any other faith.
Why you are asking for the masjid?
Anand and me could go and meditate. It was not a specific religious room. Yes, it was called a namaz room. I don't dispute it. It was not a masjid. I object to this.
It was called a namaz room, but people of all faiths can go there. Dr. Anand Ranganathan.
Yes, Navika. Yeah, Tehseen, please.
Sure, Anand. Sure.
Tehseen.
Sure, Anand.
Yeah.
Sure, please.
Thank you. Navika, I won't take more than 30 seconds because what I want to say is very important. You see, there are people with agenda who are running and fixing the narrative. How do we expose that? How do we correct it? We can only correct it using data. Concrete data, because selectivity has gone to such an extent, and I'm giving you examples. These are reports by Times of India. Muslim barbers refuse to give Dalits a haircut. Let me quote, if Dalits take haircut, the towels become dirty. This is in Moradabad village. There are so many instances like this in villages. So, you have to cite these instances, Navika, because otherwise these selectivities, they will take it to such an extent that they will say only Hindus are discriminating. Whereas there is equal discrimination by Muslims on Dalits as well. Nobody knows this because it never comes into the news. It never elicits any outrage.
Well, I want to get in Mr. Atikur Rahman. Mr. Atikur Rahman, NCRB data shows that Jharkhand has recorded the second highest number of cases under the SC/ST Preventions of Atrocities Act for the third consecutive year, 2019, 2020 and 2021. So Dalits are being cornered in the state of Jharkhand. That's a dubious distinction that Jharkhand has. Apart from that, and I don't want to make this religion based, but the fact is that if bulldozers in Uttar Pradesh are not being looked at through the lens of law and order, they are being looked at as Yogi's bulldozers, which is out to target the Muslim community, then why should the same not be seen in Jharkhand, where the Muslims are using bulldozers to bring down the houses of the Mahadalits? Who's making it communal? Are people like Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi making it communal, and therefore shouldn't they be asking what's going on in Jharkhand today and answering those questions?
Navika ji, in my position as a researcher on Islamic studies, I should warn all those people, the trustees of madrasas or masjids, the caretakers of any of the religious bodies, that if they are usurping their powers under the patronage of the state, they will be dealt with very, very harshly by Allah, and that is pronounced very widely in the Quran, that no devotion to Allah can be bereft of either righteousness or grace or dignity shown to the people of the other faiths. and the people of the other faiths are described in the Quran as dhimmis, and Prophet Muhammad have guaranteed that the non-Muslims, the dhimmis, if they are tormented by the Muslim community, it will be the Prophet on the day of judgment who will be guarding their interest. So any of the trustees or the madrasas, if they are trying to impart religious education, Islamic education, and they are usurping powers by, either they are tormenting these downtrodden people, they are trying to get their land, Allah won't accept their devotion. Imparting such religious Islamic education won't be accepted. They are fooling themselves. Under the state patronage, if they are doing so, even if they are harshly dealing, they will have to give their due share. And not only due share, they have no right over such land. They cannot establish a religious structure, a Islamic seminary on such a land if you are usurping powers of the downtrodden.
Atikur Rahman, very good philosophy that you have enunciated, but will you condemn the fact that there was a mob in Palamu that razed not just homes but also temples of the Mahadalit community that was residing there over the last 2 years? You haven't condemned that. You have spoken as if you're giving examples of something that happened on Mars.
Is a very, very serious subject.
Navika ji, he will condemn. He will condemn.
The Mahadalits and Dalits, we know the downtrodden, social stage of them.
So are you condemning? And are you saying this is the failure of the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha's government and the Congress, which is in absentia, letting the situation to go on?
No, I am not concerned with the politics of the state. If under the patronage of the state it is being done or bereft of it. Muslims cannot usurp the downtrodden or any of the non-Muslims.
But my friend, those houses have been destroyed. Those temples have been destroyed. Do you condemn it? Do you condemn it?
100%. Not only condemnation, but it's punishable. Not only under
विनोद बंसल जी, आज आतिकुर रहमान ने सारे स्टीरियोटाइप्स बस्ट कर दिए और उन्होंने कहा है कि ऐसी जमीन किसी को रास नहीं आएगी क्योंकि इसका हिसाब देना पड़ेगा अल्लाह को कयामत के दिन. वो सही कह रहे हैं, लेकिन ये हिंदू मुस्लिम करके हमने क्या बैटल लाइंस जी जवाब दीजिए आप.
नाविका जी, मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, देखिए टीवी चैनल की डिबेट में बैठ करके चिकनी बातें करना, इस्लाम को महामंडित करना, महादलितों का, देखिए तो ये तो इनकी फितरत में है. लेकिन मैं एक बात पूछना चाहता हूं बड़ी सिंपल, कुरान में काफिर की डेफिनेशन क्या है और काफिर के साथ क्या करना चाहिए ये जरा बता दें. कुरान की एक आयत है जिसके बारे में सबको पता है, इनको भी पता है. आखिरकार वो जो है ये कहते हैं कि पैगंबर साहब के लिए बनी थी, लेकिन वो आज भी एप्लीकेबल है और उसी आयत की वजह से लोगों में ये सब फसाद हो रहे हैं. आखिरकार उस पर कुछ प्रकाश डालें और वो आयत कब तक रहेगी ऐसी, मुझे बताएं. क्या वो ठीक है? क्या इन्होंने एक बात तो कही लेकिन दूसरी बात नहीं कही कि काफिर क्या है, काफिर कौन है.
सब लोगों के हाथ ऊपर उठ रहे हैं. आतिकुर रहमान पहले, फिर तहसीन और फिर आनंद रंगनाथन आपके पास आ रही हूँ. आतिकुर रहमान साहब जवाब दीजिए.
Navika ji, I will refer Maulana Abul Kalam Azad's book, The Tarjuma al-Quran for Vinod Bansal ji, in which he has described who is a kafir. Kufr, which means denial. Volume 1, page 83-85, note down कर लीजिए. विनोद बंसल जी, आप हमेशा ये बात मुझसे पूछा करते हैं. एंड नाविका जी, आई विल आल्सो कोट सूरह 16 वर्स 125. प्रॉफिट इज एडवाइज्ड टू यूज परसुएशन विद ग्रेस.
एक बार में एक दूसरे के ऊपर ना बोले, एक दूसरे के ऊपर ना बोले. बंसल जी, आतिकुर रहमान बोल रहे हैं, वो बोल लें, उसके बाद मैं आपको मौका दूंगी. आतिकुर रहमान साहब.
मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद की नाम आप नोट कर लीजिए, तर्जुमा कुरान, verse 125, chapter 16 says, prophet is advised to use persuasion with grace. Call all to accept the way of the Lord, but do not do it with persuasion. Adopt ways that are gracious, for your Lord knows best who strays from his path. Bansal ji, sun rahe hain aap? And the Kafirs are not my Hindu brethren. The Kafirs were the Makkan people who plotted to kill Prophet Muhammad. He had to migrate because of their atrocities. Those were the Kafirs, the pagan Arabs.
Bansal ji.
Say something.
No, what is the meaning of kafir today? That was the definition that time. You have told this thing so many times. But why this kafir word is still exists in the Quran? And why this is being preached by the Devband Madrasas to have atrocities against the non-believers? Why they are being killed? और आप मुझे बताइए, इस्लाम के नाम पर जो हत्याएं हो रही हैं, इस्लाम के नाम पर जो आतंकवादी संगठन चल रहे हैं,
बिल्कुल,
तो उसी के कारण चल रहे हैं।
कोई भी रिलीजियस स्क्रिप्चर ये नहीं दिखाता जो आज हम सड़कों पर देख रहे हैं। ये हम जानते हैं कि कुरान में ऐसा नहीं लिखा है कि आप महादलितों के साथ इस तरह करिए। पर आनंद रंगनाथन, is Atikur Rahman's reading out of the old books and old scriptures enough to describe the situation today?
Navika, I must confess, I am beginning to like my good friend Mr. Atikur Rahman. I hope he wouldn't mind that. The fact of the matter is that it goes beyond my applause for him, because he is, and I am not being facetious here, he is actually 1 in 2 billion. He is alone. His interpretation right now, let me give you an example. He very correctly says that in Quran it is written, Bansalji, in Quran it is written that Allah has commanded righteousness for the disbelievers and the unbeliever. Quite rightly, it is there. But when I also quote the things that Allah has commanded and ordered to be done against the disbelievers, Mr. Atikur Rahman says no, those disbelievers are of that time. But when he wants to quote selectively the good things that are supposed to be done for disbelievers, he is there saying that disbelievers are for all time. So my question to him is, when Allah says be kind to disbelievers, why is he discounting the fact that those disbelievers against whom Allah says be righteous and kind are also disbelievers of that time, not of this time? Here is the hypocrisy. He only quotes the good, righteous verses of the Quran. He disregards all those verses that command death and worse for the disbelievers.
Well, Atikur Rahman, I don't want to get into the Quran, what it says. No religion ever teaches anybody to displace, to kill, to trouble, people of whichever faith they are. So Atikur Rahman, tonight I want to ask you, and this is a specific question. Please do not get into, a philosophical discussion on what the Quran says and how people are behaving today. I just want to ask you, what has happened in Palamu? Shouldn't that be an eye-opener that all is not well even within the minority community, especially when they behave like this? So therefore, religion should be removed when a crime takes place, an act of terror takes place. You cannot bring in religion into that discussion, and therefore, if bulldozers go into the house of somebody to demolish the house of rioters, then it cannot be that it is targeting a certain community, just like you are not willing to call it the same in Palamu.
And why his Quran is not being taught in
Navika ji, to be very, very prudent, we have to accept that we are not living in India as Muslims alone, as Hindus alone. We are guided only and only by the Constitution and the IPC. My Quran, my scriptures, and also the Hindu scriptures are best to be studied and learned and be claimed within my 4 walls of the house. This is my understanding. My religion is
so how many people community go with the same understanding, Mr. Atikur Rahman? Can you also?
2 billion. That is why it's 1 in 2 billion.
IPC sanctions against them. If they do not believe in the IPC and the Constitution, it's punishable.
Well, Tehseen Poonawalla, so here you are not in consonance with what Atikur Rahman says. He says the IPC section should be applied to them. You are still waiting for a mob violence bill to be okayed. I want to ask you, Tehseen Poonawalla, right now, even the minority community doesn't think that your appeasement is worth even the paper that it is written on.
That's not what I want to talk about. First of all, you're completely misquoting me, ma'am. I am absolutely clear. Listen, I can't do this debate because every time I come after a long time, every time I speak, somebody interrupts. So you either allow me the respect to speak or you don't.
Make your point, Tehseen.
Thank you. Then please ask him to keep quiet. No, not you, Anand. Not you. I didn't mean. Look, there are two things here. I absolutely did not say that the IPC does not I absolutely did not say the IPC does not apply. I said had that bill come in, there would have been preventive measures. Of course, they will be prosecuted under the relevant provisions today. But there's something deeper that I want to say, and it's something that I want to say from my heart. So please allow me the grace to say. Every single time that I come on a lot of channels, and I have a lot of respect for Anand, yes, the Quran is quoted. Some of it is quoted selectively to reflect things that are not absolutely true. The interpretation of the tarjuma of the Quran is done from time to time by the leaders of the community, and the Quran says something very categorical. Forget about punishment and all, that the constitution of the country must be supreme. When you say, or when Mr. Bansal says that how many Muslims follow that, Muslims of this land only and only bow before the constitution. And if you believe in the Quran or you believe in the Sharia, you have no choice but to believe in the constitution about that. Let me make it extremely clear. Number two, and let me be very, very clear, there is no appeasement. If Muslims, as Anand said, had boycotted Dalits, they should be criminally penalized. If Muslims are mistreating anybody, forget Dalits, anybody including a Brahmin, they should be treated by the relevant provisions of the law. No if, no but. All I'm trying to say...
Vinod Bansal ji, both Atikur Rahman and Tehseen Poonawalla, if you heard their discussions, if you heard their points, if you heard their arguments, are talking about if this happened, then action should be taken. 48 hours later, are they not sure that this has happened? Or is this the benefit of doubt that is being extended to a certain political party, to a certain community, which is not extended to Yogi Adityanath in Uttar Pradesh? I want to ask you. They are only talking about if this has happened, then this can happen. There is no way they are accepting कि हाँ ये हुआ है.
डेफिनेटली देखिए नविका जी दो बातें बड़ी महत्व की हैं. आप चाहे उनके अपने अतीकुर रहमान की बात करें या इन दूसरे महाशय की बात करें, दोनों के केस में ये कंडेमनेशन तो आया किसी तरह से, लेकिन मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं क्या दोनों के लोग कहीं वहां पहुंचे क्या? अतीकुर रहमान और उनके जो इस्लामिक स्कॉलर्स हैं, तथाकथित जो मुस्लिम उलेमा हैं, can't they go to Palamu and educate them that they are going against Islam? Why they not there?
Nil bate sannata. Well, I'm running out of time on this debate. Anand Ranganathan, I will have to indulge you on topic number 2 tonight, but we leave it at that. It cannot be selectivism that will settle this case. Move to the other big debate, the Kashmir files that had been forgotten. The wounds of the Nadimarg massacre, in which 24 Kashmiri Hindus were brutally murdered, are still fresh. 19 years later, the survivors are still seeking justice. Today on the Newshour, we will reveal the untold story of Nadimarg murder fallout. Ladies and gentlemen, while the Jammu and Kashmir High Court has reopened the case, Times Now has now accessed the 2000 2009 order copy of the principal sessions judge of the Shopian court that highlights some damning details. The order copy reveals that the main accused in the case, a Pakistani terrorist who was to be produced for trial before the court, wasn't brought before the judge multiple times because apparently there was a shortage of cops. Yes, that is the excuse they used, the Jammu and Kashmir government of the time. Yes, you heard it right. This happened not just once, but 68 times between 2003 and 2009. It's absolutely shocking, and this is how the victims of Nadimarg were betrayed over and over again. The case had been dragging on for years on end, and in 2011 it was closed for lack of evidence before being reopened just a few days ago. Listen in to the survivors as to how they were betrayed.
रात के 3 बजे थे और हम जो गाय जहाँ पे रखते वहाँ पे मम्मी के साथ मैं और मेरा भाई ऐसे दोनों को पकड़ा हुआ था मुंह पे हाथ रख के ताकि कुछ बोले ना, और ऐसे ही 4-5 बजे तक वहाँ रुका गया था। बुरा लगता है और गुस्सा भी आता है कि ऐसा हुआ था और किसी ने कुछ किया नहीं। जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि मेरे पापा थे जो पुलिस वहाँ चौकी गए थे, लेकिन उनको बजाय पुलिस फोर्स भेजने के उनको भी जेल में बंद कर दिया कि आप मत जाओ, हम भी नहीं जा रहे।
और मेरे मामा का लड़का वो उसी वक्त पुलिस चौकी में चला गया। पुलिस उनको बताया हमें मार रहे हैं, उधर उग्रवादी आ गए, हमें मार रहे हैं। पुलिस वालों ने उनको बिठा के रखा, बोला को इस वक्त हम नहीं जाएंगे, कुछ भी हो हम सवेरे जाएंगे।
The victims have not only been betrayed, but cops also have been betrayed by the system. Mufti Saeed, who was the chief minister when the massacre happened, promised to police protection to the victim's skin, but very little translated on the ground. Ghulam Nabi Azad was appointed as the chief minister in 2005, and during that time, that is between 2003 and 2008, the main terrorist was produced only 24 out of the 73 times. Omar Abdullah was the chief minister in 2009, and under his watch 19 times accused number 1 was not produced by the cops. And that is the Kashmir story you never heard.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
To debate that tonight on the show, GVL Narasimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Ashok Pandit, Director, Majid Haidri, Political Analyst, and Tehseen Poonawala, Political Analyst, join me on the show. Ashok Pandit to you. Ashok Pandit still to join us. GVL Narasimha Rao, does this seem absolutely familiar way the PDP and the National Conference have behaved in the past? Because 68 times the terrorist is not produced in court, and this is between governments of the PDP, the Congress and the National Conference. Is this how they were committed to justice for Kashmiri Hindus?
Navika, on a very auspicious day when the whole nation is celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi, I think to debate this is really giving me a lot of pain. 2003, 24 Hindu Kashmiri Pandits were killed at gunpoint, and the case in 2011, eventually the High Court did not allow a trial of the case because the state government was not represented in the court. I think it appears to be a completely concocted and a completely conspired effort, not just by the terrorists, by the likes of LET, but the state governments and the political parties seem to be co-conspirators in the entire case. How could the state government ignore giving basic human rights and basic justice to the people of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir? They were bona fide citizens of Jammu and Kashmir, and the manner in which the state governments in 2003, the Mufti Saeed government, and later the PDP and the Congress governments dealt with this case is shocking. You talk about human rights in every other case that's so convenient for you, but the manner in which human rights have been violated in Jammu and Kashmir, where massacre, genocide of innocent Kashmiri Pandits have not been given a fair trial. It's so shocking. I think I'm happy at least ultimately these cases are coming back to give justice and to give them a closure. The state government, the current administration has certainly asked the court to reopen these cases, not just this case, even JKLF Chief Yasin Malik's involvement in killing of Indian Army soldiers, and even the abduction of Mufti Saeed's daughter. There are many other cases that have been reopened. I sincerely hope there will be a closure for these cases, and Kashmiri Pandits at last can feel that in independent India they have received a semblance of justice.
I want to ask Tehseen Poonawalla. Tehseen Poonawalla, Congress, National Conference, PDP, three governments between 2003 and 2009 and 11 when this case was closed. Not one of them carries the guilt, just lip service of standing with the Kashmiri Hindus, but not one admission of how they behaved and how cases after cases were closed because they chose not to present the evidence. Even a Pakistani terrorist not being presented in court because there is a shortage of cops, for God's sake, Tehseen Poonawalla, is that even an excuse that somebody will buy?
Absolutely not. And I saw your interview with Dr. Farooq Abdullah Saab, where you rightly raised his questions, and he was quite upset and he walked away. And as a journalist, I respect your right to ask every and tough questions, and you must. So there are two things that I want to make. I share the Honorable Member of Parliament's concern, and of course, you know, on such an auspicious day, it is sad that we're discussing this. And in our own country, our own fellow citizens, our Kashmiri Pandits, continue to be refugees even after 8 years of the Modi-Shah government. But that's not the debate for today. Ghulam Nabi Azad, who was Chief Minister then, and PDP, who was Chief Minister then, while the BJP is aligned with both of them, or at least right now with Ghulam Nabi and then with PDP, the BJP must promise us today it won't align. It must promise us justice. And when Ms. Mehbooba Mufti's sister was kidnapped, it was Rajiv Gandhi who said, do not release terrorists, but the BJP was in government and released terrorists. So the BJP must also atone for its sin and now promise justice to this country and settle our Pandit fellow citizens back in Jammu and Kashmir. Nothing short of that will do. Anyone else, including the then Chief Minister, should be prosecuted. I stand by them. Let him prosecute Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad rather than the Prime Minister crying for him. Okay. I agree. I stand by them.
How convenient. 52 years Ghulam Nabi Azad was with them. At that time, they didn't want to answer. They didn't want to answer these questions, and today it's so easy for them to say Ghulam Nabi Azad ab BJP ka ho gaya, ab unse sawal pooch lo, hame to pata nahi. Dr. Anand Ranganathan?
Yes, Navika, please give me a minute, and I hope I won't be interrupted, most of all by my good friend Tehseen, because I want to rebut him, and it's very important. Navika, I'll tell you what the real tragedy is. The tragedy is that witnesses or observers like us pick out tragedies from what has been a rolling genocide. And Mr. Pandit would know it more than anyone else. What happened in Kashmir is a rolling genocide, and to pick out one massacre, one incident, betrays our ignorance of what that genocide really was. And here I want to put Tehseen on the dock, because right on your show all those months ago, I hope I won't be interrupted by my good friend Tehseen, he called Kashmir Files a jhooty propaganda film. This was by far, I'm sorry Tehseen, the most disgusting of your affronts. Please allow me.
I never did. Anand, your factual job.
Allow Anand Ranganathan to make his point, and if there is something you object to, you can come in later. Yes, Anand Ranganathan.
Yes, he called Navika. I was on the show, and I really did not want Tehseen to be interrupting me. He called Kashmir Files a propaganda film. And let me tell him, does he know about the Nadimarg massacre that the film truthfully depicted, where Zia Mustafa, he lined up 23 unsuspecting Kashmiri Hindus and shot them point blank? And as he was escaping, he heard a baby cry, Tehseen, "Ye karwaun chupe," said his friend. And the baby became the 24th victim. Is this jhoot, Tehseen? Do you know about Girja Tiku, who was raped and cleaved into two by mechanical saw while she was alive? Is this jhoot?
Do you know about BK Ganju, who hid inside a rice barrel when jihadis came looking for him, and his Muslim neighbor informed on him? Ganju was shot dead. Rice laced with his blood was fed to his wife. Is this jhoot? The slogans raised from mosque on 19 Jan, Raliv, Salif, Ghalib, deaths to Kafirs, Pandit, leave your women behind, Nizam-e-Mustafa. Is this all jhoot? Answer, Tehseen, you owe us an answer.
No, but today, Tehseen Poonawala, 1 minute, let me get in Mr. Ashok Pandit. No, he is the only Kashmiri Pandit, and I will give him Tehseen, wait after Mr. Pandit, not before him.
There's a lot of hate done against you because these allegations. I'll just take 10 seconds with apologies to with Ashok Pandit. Just 10 seconds, Dr. Ranganathan. At no point have I opposed Kashmir Files. I am on social media and on TV saying the movie should not be boycotted, and even if you
called it a propaganda film, and while Dr. Anand Ranganathan and my research team is looking for your tweet, I want to get in Ashok Pandit. Ashok Pandit, they could not produce terrorists in court because there were very few cops in Jammu and Kashmir. That was the reason that these terrorists could not be examined. That was the reason evidence could not be examined. And that was the reason that Nadimarg massacre, where 24 people were killed, had to be closed. Had to be closed in 2011. I want to ask you, is there blood on the hands of all of these parties that have ruled Kashmir? The PDP, the National Conference, as well as the Indian National Congress.
Navika, we have lived with this apathy, with this attitude, with this behavioral pattern of all the political parties in Kashmir since the last 33 years of our genocide and exodus. Till now, government has not officially released a document or passed in the parliament that we were the victims of genocide. We have not been called as the displaced Kashmiri Pandit, displaced community in the country. What do we expect? All these things which are coming out now, that the files have come out, and we all know about it. We all know there was a total apathy, and the apathy continued till all these people ruled. All these things are coming out now, where there is a system where there is at least a thought that yes, this happened and things have to be told to the public and they have to be punished. Not a single FIR was filed against all those terrorists who were responsible for my genocide. I want to shift this subject a bit. Yesterday, see, the apathy continues to all levels. I'm talking about my industry. Politics ko thoda bagal mein rakhte hue. Yesterday was one of the biggest Filmfare Awards in Mumbai. And you know, Navika, Vivek Agnihotri, the producer and the director of Kashmir Files, was not invited because he made Kashmir Files, which exposed these very politicians, all these apologists who said that this is not a film at all, and they condemned this film. The way they were exposed, they couldn't take this shock. We are facing we were facing the same things. We kept on crying. We kept on screaming from the last 30 to 30 years. It is now that the things are coming out. Not a single door was open for us. Not a single police station was open for us. Not a single politician was open for us. There was a lot of celebration that Ghulam Nabi Azad has led Congress. So everybody is celebrating it. All the opposition political parties are celebrating it. For me, Ghulam Nabi Azad, Mufti Muhammad Sayyid, Farooq Abdullah and his entire family, all these families are responsible for all the massacres of Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir. Whether it's Madhavdas, whether it is Nadimarg, or all those massacres. Very few people who have survived have come out with their stories. And now things are coming in forefront. The apathy still continues. The apathy of Kashmiri Pandits still continues. Even now, there are thousands of Kashmiri Pandits on the streets in Jammu, in Delhi, in Kashmir, asking for their transfers to save their lives from Kashmir. How long are these politicians going to play with my tears, with my emotions, with my genocide, with my ethnic cleansing, Navika? How long are they going to gather votes on us? How long are they going to penalize us for being Kashmiri Pandits? for being Indians, for raising a flag in Kashmir. How long? How long? There'll be umpteen number of stories. Vivek has entire material with him. The day he starts putting all those research material forth, all the interviews, there will be a total, they all will be exposed. Navika, I don't know how to react because we have faced this entire.
I understand, Ashok Pandit. What can I say? As a country...
Navika, can you clarify?
One minute. Yes, you have sent me you have wished Vivek Agnihotri all the best. You have sent me a tweet that you sent. But Majid Haidri, the anger, the hurt is raw and alive in Ashok Pandit's voice even today. But I want to ask you, not presenting evidence at that time, not presenting the accused at that time because there was a paucity of the cops in Jammu and Kashmir police. I mean, is that the lowest of the lies that could have been put before the court? And is this not something that was actually a live cover-up that was happening?
Well, yes, Navika साहिबा, इस तरीके से मुझे कत्ल किया है उसने, इस तरीके से मुझे कत्ल किया है उसने, अब भी दुनिया ये समझती है कि मैं जिंदा हूं. I totally agree with Dr. Ranganathan on the show tonight, exclusively tonight only, that he said, why should we single out one massacre? We are a saga of massacre. Before Nadimarg in March 2003, we had Gujarat massacre in 2002. And then we have survivors from all the massacres.
Let's stick to Kashmir. In 2002, whatever happened, victims, people who were the perpetrators face the law. It is in Jammu and Kashmir that they didn't. Ranganathan.
Yes, no, Navika, I must say, I stand to be correct. No. Now, if Tehseen wished Vivek Agnihotri well, I owe him an apology. I didn't mean to suggest that you didn't wish Vivek Agnihotri well. Tehseen, please, you're a very good friend and I would be the last person saying this. I had in mind, Tehseen, 1 second. It is Mr. Majid Haidri who has been consistently saying that Kashmir Files is a propaganda. You can see Ashok Pandit is here on the panel. And let Mr. Majid Haidri dispute me. I'll apologize if Mr. Majid Haidri says it is not the case.
You commercialize the pain of Kashmiri Pandits. It was simple commercialization of the true pain of Kashmiri Pandits, and I don't endorse that movie. That movie is half truth. That movie is half truth. It is not the complete reality. One-sided half
commercialization. Well, when Parzania happened, how come you didn't have that to say about that film? Suddenly, Kashmir Files becomes the commercialization of somebody's distress and somebody's pain.
Yes,
GVL Narasimha Rao, hypocrisy and double standards. They will not talk about. They will not talk about the evidence that was not presented. They will not talk about the fact that terrorists were not produced in court because there was a paucity of cops, but they will talk about commercialization of the pain of the Kashmiri Hindus. Is that the only explanation they have to give tonight?
Navika, I think a lot of people are feeling very uncomfortable that the worst massacres and the worst violence that was heaped upon, that was wreaked upon Kashmiri Pandits is coming now into the public glare. For several years, I think the massacre and the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits remained only confined to some section of the society. It was only Kashmiri Pandits who were talking about the injustice meted out to them. But the public at large did not know. Kashmiri Files, in a way, has completely changed that and brought into the public consciousness the kind of the horrific violence that was heaped upon them. And all these the pseudo-secular elements in the society, all those who have appeased even terrorists for the sake of at the altar of their political expediency, they now find the truth the very inconvenient. I think they would rather every time anything that happened in Gujarat, there were several hundreds of Hindus who were killed in Gujarat violence. and and all the riots in Gujarat have all been under the glare of the courts. Everyone was examined. Several perpetrators have been punished. But in Kashmir it was genocide.
Why is the story of the Kashmiri Pandits, the Kashmiri Hindus, always muddied with what happened elsewhere in the country? Do Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Hindus not deserve at least some amount of penance from the rest of us? The question is, did we fail them? Yes, we did. It's absolutely true when you see the details of what transpired then. Why then are excuses being made? It's a question that we need to answer if we have any conscience left within us, especially in the political parties that ruled Kashmir in that time, the PDP, the Congress and the National Conference. Wake up your conscience if it still exists. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on the Newshour tonight.
You were watching the Newshour at 9. Stay tuned. Newshour at 9. You were watching the Newshour at 9. Stay tuned.
There will have to be bilateral agreement with whoever we want. There's too much of politics involved for there to be a regional trade agreement in South Asia.
evening with the News Hour agenda. I'm Madhavdas. It was almost 2 decades ago when 24 Kashmiri Pandits were killed in Nadimarg village in Shopia in Jammu and Kashmir. The village had a total of 11 families with 52 people. Almost half of them were massacred by terrorists who entered wearing military fatigues and lined up the villages before shooting them dead in cold blood. Now, as the Jammu and Kashmir High Court decides to reopen the case, the hopes of hapless Hindus who had been left to fend for themselves have also been revived, along with the painful memories of the massacre. Times Now has traced the victims' families. Hear them narrate the horror of that night and how they were betrayed by those who were meant to shield them.
रात के 3 बजे थे और हम जो गाय जहाँ पे रखते वहाँ पे मम्मी के साथ मैं और मेरा भाई ऐसे दोनों को पकड़ा हुआ था, मुंह पे हाथ रख के ताकि कुछ बोले ना, और ऐसे ही 4-5 बजे तक वहाँ रुका गया था। बुरा लगता है और गुस्सा भी आता है कि ऐसा हुआ था और किसी ने कुछ किया नहीं। जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि मेरे पापा थे जो पुलिस वहाँ चौकी गए थे, लेकिन उनको बजाय पुलिस फोर्स भेजने के उनको भी जेल में बंद कर दिया कि आप मत जाओ, हम भी नहीं जा रहे।
और मेरे मामा का लड़का वो उसी वक्त पुलिस चौकी में चला गया। पुलिस उनको बताया हमें मार रहे हैं, उधर उग्रवादी आ गए, हमें मार रहे हैं। पुलिस वालों ने उनको बिठा के रखा, बोला कोई इस वक्त हम नहीं जाएंगे, कुछ भी हो हम सवेरे जाएंगे।
You've heard the pain of those who have gone through so much of torture. Now Times Now shows you who is to blame for this hurt and injustice. Times Now has accessed the verdict given by the Shopia court in 2009, where the judge made scathing observations, putting the police in the dock, detailing how 68 times the police failed to produce accused number 1, Zia Mustafa. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 68 times the accused number 1 was not produced by the police in this very case in the court. What's even more shocking is the reason cited by the police, that there was a lack of manpower, a lack of security guards to protect the accused. So who was in power at that time? Who in the political dispensation could not ensure that the man who was in police custody could not make it to court? Have you heard of anything more bizarre? It was Congress's Ghulam Nabi Azad, followed by Omar Abdullah as the chief minister. And if you thought the Muftis could be absolved of being apathetic, hear this.
कश्मीरी पंडितों के ऊपर कहाँ है हीलिंग टच की पॉलिसी? कहीं नहीं। उसके बाद जब हम 14 अप्रैल को जम्मू आए, उसके बाद यहाँ उन्होंने अपना रवैया कुछ और दिखाया। तो फिर हमारे में से एक एजेंट से बंदे थे, उन्होंने बोला एक आप सीएम की हैसियत से नहीं हम आपको बोल रहे हैं, आप सीएम हो या गवर्नमेंट में हो, इस वक्त हम एक पड़ोसी की हैसियत से आपको बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि आप वहाँ पे कश्मीर में हमारे पड़ोसी रहे हो। तो नाडीमर्ग और बिजबियाड़ा का कितना ही डिफरेंस था तो आप तो जानते ही हो। तो उन्होंने बोला नहीं, पड़ोसी हम वहाँ थे, यहाँ नहीं है। तो अब हम भी देखते हैं यहाँ के पंडित, यहाँ के लोकल्स आपकी कितनी हेल्प करेंगे। इतना रूड बिहेवियर हमारे साथ यहाँ पे हुआ।
You know, when you have roundtable conferences with the Hurriyat people, with the people who are charged with terrorism, this affects the entire apparatus. The government has to give a very clear and firm message, which translates down the line, and every effort of the government, directly who are working under the government, and indirectly those who are not working under government, like judiciary also, all these people then work accordingly in the interest of the nationalism.
The Shopia judge in 2009 verdict also went on to ask the police how would they produce 17 prosecution witnesses who live in different parts of India if they can't produce a single accused who's already in their custody. A question that became the bedrock when the case was closed 11 years ago and was highlighted by the Jammu and Kashmir High Court while ordering that this case be reopened.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's go across to our guest now. We have with us RP Singh, national spokesperson of the BJP. Amit Raina, Kashmir activist, is with us. Arti Tikku, senior journalist, is also joining us. Sarfraz Wani is a lawyer who's joining us. Ashwini Handa is a former leader of the Congress. But I first and foremost want to go across to Majid Haidari. Majid Haidari, it's absolutely mind-boggling. 68 times the court calls for the accused number 1, and the government says we did not have adequate men in uniform to guard the accused. What's going on? You can't provide justice. How can justice be delivered if the prime accused in any case, forget if it's in Kashmir or it's in Kerala or in Kanyakumari or Karnataka, if you cannot produce the first accused after being called by a court 63 times, what use is the government? What kind of prosecution do we have?
Well, Madhav Saab, Kashmiri Pandits will get justice the day they return to their homeland with dignity and honor and live with harmony with the victimized in Kashmiri Muslims. See, the point is that
No, don't try to cover up the government's failure, please. Don't try to push the government's failure at someone else's doorstep.
You spoke about why this main accused, the mastermind, the POK terrorist who was in the police custody.
So you will not blame the administration, you will blame Kashmiri Pandits for that?
No. I am not blaming Kashmiri Pandits. I'm coming to the case only.
So why are you invoking them? What about the political leadership? What about the administration?
Yes, I am coming to that only, sir. Let me respond. See, the mastermind in the case or the key accused or the man who was arrested in this, he was kept in precious custody because for all these years, Abdullah, Muftis and Ghulam Nabi Azad kept him alive. But recently, in BJP's hands, he got killed. You don't have any witness to this case now. The main accused has been killed very much when he was in police custody. So don't blame Muftis, Abdullahs or Azad.
Mr. Majid Haidari, if he was taken to the court, there's every possibility he would have been convicted and convicted with death as well. There's every possibility of that. So do not play these mental acrobatics and these perversions of logic with us here today. Those who are supposed to do their job failed in their job and failed to do so and failed the 24 citizens. They were Hindus or Muslims, they were citizens of the state who the state administration willfully failed. And regime after regime failed. Not just the Muftis, not just the Azads, but also the Abdullahs.
Right, not protected. What will you show to the Honorable Court? You don't have the evidence.
Sir, the circumstances of his death are immaterial to the justice delivery of this case.
BJP's failure.
Do not mix up the two. Do not mix up the two, Majid Haidari, because what you are doing today, is failing the memory of those people who are crying out for justice. That's what you are doing today. Let me bring in Amit Raina on this. Amit Raina, I mean, this is absolutely shocking, not surprising to me. But, you know, even in a case like this, when there's such a gross violation of the judicial procedure, you have people who are ready to defend those who were in power at that time. Amit Raina.
From 1990 till 2006, 39 major massacres happened in Jammu and Kashmir. Massacres which included Sangrampura, Doda, Pahalgam, Chatti Singhpura, Vandhama, and not a single conviction has happened in any of those cases. Why? Because every time the state government, the governments of Mufti, Abdullahs and Congress went out and defended these terrorists. They made heroes out of them. And you see what happens when Yasin Malik is prosecuted. These are the parties who cry and weep over terrorists who are responsible for genocides of Kashmiri Pandits. So I wasn't expecting a justice out of them. What hurts me more is that when I went to Supreme Court asking them to reopen the cases, the Honorable Court goes and says, where will the Jammu and Kashmir police get witnesses and proofs? And they did not even ask Jammu and Kashmir police whether you will be able to prosecute. They had this man responsible for Nadimarg killing in police custody, and Supreme Court did not act upon it. So there is a massive system failure which has happened in Jammu and Kashmir. It is the political parties of Jammu and Kashmir who are responsible for it. You had DGP Huda right now giving sermons on what went wrong. He himself was DGP for 6 years. Why could he not produce the guilty in front of the court? He did not, because he was part of the system. So unfortunately, the system over the last 30 years has ensured that every person who has massacred, who is part of the crime, who is part of the genocide, goes scot-free, and that was happening till now. Now at least the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir has stepped in, reopened the Nadimarg case, and we see some hope. We see some hope of justice being delivered.
What will happen as far as justice now the High Court is looking into the matter is, of course, left to the High Court. But I want to also bring in, you mentioned Kashmir parties. But there's a small difference here. The Chief Minister of that time did not belong to a Kashmir party. He belonged to the Congress party. And we have one of his supporters sitting right here on this panel. Supporter of Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, Mr. Ashwini Handa. Kashmir parties to Kashmir parties हैं, उनकी अपनी priorities हैं.
being a member of a national political party like the Congress, which has, played such a major role in Mr. Azad's life, in his career. He has, of course, left the Congress party now. There was a Congress government, incidentally, at that time in the center as well. Despite all of that, what prevented Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad from taking a different line from the Azad, from the Abdullahs or the Muftis who existed in the Kashmir Valley? Or was he under pressure also, like Mr. Khoda?
माधव, मैं आपसे चाहूंगा कि हमारे कश्मीर की बात हो रही है तो आप मुझे थोड़ा सा ज्यादा टाइम देंगे। जो आप टाइम है बोलिए, सवाल उठा रहे हैं मैं एक एक सवाल का जवाब दूंगा। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं भारतीय जनता पार्टी जब जब सरकार के अंदर आती है तब सब कश्मीरी पंडितों का नरसंहार क्यों होता है? उस समय भी 2003 में भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी देश के अंदर प्रधानमंत्री थे, और आज जब 21
अरे प्रदेश में तो आपकी सरकार
कश्मीरी पंडितों का फिर से नरसंहार हुआ है, उनको फिर से वापस कश्मीर जाना पड़ा है।
It was a Congress PDP coalition. What are you talking? You have no clue of history.
No.
Who was ruling the state at one point of time? It was Congress PDP government.
You are wrong.
PDP government.
You are wrong.
Mufti Muhammad Saeed was the CM.
Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the president. Atal Bihari was the president, Advani was the home minister, and Mufti
Ashwini Handa, I don't want to waste time of the viewers with unnecessary debates. The fact is that 2002 elections happened in Jammu and Kashmir. I've covered those elections very closely. It was a PDP Congress that was formed for 3 years. After 3 years, Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, with the help of PDP, continued for another 3 years, and then the Abdullahs came. So don't waste our time with this absolute nonsense. The state law and order machinery is under the state government, so do not come with that excuse. Mr. Azad and his party were very much part of the regime that supported the Muftis at that point of time when the incident happened. The questions we are asking today is why the prosecution failed when Mr. Azad was the chief minister and when the Abdullahs continued in power. Do you have any answer to that? कोई जवाब है आपके पास? गुलाम नबी आजाद ने इनके 24 विक्टिम्स को फेल क्यों किया? क्यों इंसाफ दिलाने में नाकामयाब रहे? आज जवाब दीजिए अश्विनी हांडा।
गुलाम नबी आजाद ने दिया।
क्यों नहीं इंसाफ दिला पाए 24 विक्टिम्स को?
गुलाम नबी आजाद साहब ने किया।
क्या किया था?
इनको रिहेबिलिटेट किया गया, इनको वजीफा लगाया गया, इनको
अरे सर कोर्ट केस में क्या किया? न्याय कहां दिलाया?
आप बताइए।
अरे न्याय कहां दिलाए? इंसाफ कहां दिलाए? विटनेसेस कहां प्रोड्यूस किए? प्राइम एक्यूज को तो प्रोड्यूस नहीं कर पाए आप। तो 2009 में केस बंद होती है, गुलाम नबी आजाद की सरकार होती है उस वक्त।
जिस भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार के चलते इन पर नरसंहार हुआ, इनको तो प्रायश्चित करना चाहिए इस बात का। इनको अब याद आई है 19 साल के बाद।
Okay, you are referring to the BJP. Let RP Singh respond. RP Singh, you are responsible, says Ashwini Handa. Your government was there in the center at that time, the NDA 1 government, when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. You have to take responsibility. Please respond to Mr. Handa.
Well, I can't respond to a person who has no knowledge of the constitution of the country and doesn't know the federal structure and system and doesn't know that the law and order falls with the state. But that point is held. I mean, I'm accusing today that everyone was culpable of this crime because they didn't wanted the person who was a butcher of 24 Kashmiri Pandits to be prosecuted by court. Mr. Handa, did I interrupted you? I mean, stop. I mean, please. We are in a Times Now debate.
Go on,
Let's behave like gentlemen. So issue is very clear that none of them wanted, and it's not only in this case. As my dear friend was saying that none of the cases have been opened, none of the cases have been followed up by the state. Bitta Karate, for example, I mean, they left it. I mean, he was roaming free. Now the other spokesperson saying, oh, this government killed he has all the sympathy for the Zia Mustafa, and then he was saying that the person who butchered 24 people was killed by NDA government and the Jammu Kashmir government now. I'm sorry, but if this is the state of the affair, I mean, if you have all the sympathy for a person who butchered, then God bless you, and the people who are going to the state. But let me tell you very categorically, none would be spared. Case by case, massacre by massacre, all will be reopened, and all those who are involved will be prosecuted and taken to the task.
Let me bring in now Sarfaraz Wani, who's also a lawyer. Sarfaraz Wani, I'm just going to read out to you what one of the victims, Mohan Bhatt, has mentioned. He's given in great detail what happened, how he tried to save the life of a toddler who was injured with a bullet, the difficulties he faced in that. But one of the points relating to the case that he mentions is quite shocking. He says that till 2008, no one came to meet us to take our statement, which means for 5 years, nobody went to take the statement of a person who is actually now a witness in this case. It also says that in 2008, few cops came to my house here. They said, you will have to come to Pulwama to record the court statement. Instead of providing us security or a vehicle, they asked us to go off on our own to Pulwama court. They will only provide security in court and outside, but not en route. And this is the time when Hurriyat members receive security. But the police cannot provide security for a witness to go from his home to the court. It's absolutely shocking, and it's a failure of Mr. Mufti Mohammed saying, God bless his soul, but this is a clear failing of his regime, sir.
No, the first point is nothing has changed today also.
What do you mean nothing has changed? My point is they failed to provide security to witnesses. They provide to investigate and interrogate people who are material witnesses to the court. What are you saying?
Give me my time. First, I want to make first my point and then I will come to this part. Without going to the legal aspect of this, whether a court can recall its own order, because this is a very exceptional order. This order is that a court has recalled its own order and used powers under 482 CRPC. The question is, there are a number of authorities on it that a court cannot recall its own order only in exceptional circumstances when there is an arithmetical error or something.
Sir, legally they can. It's happened before. We all know the precedent. But simple, is this a case of miscarriage of justice or not, Mr. Wani?
No.
Let's not beat around the bush. Is it case of miscarriage of justice in your view or not?
Let me come. How will this debate go? You are not allowing me to speak.
My point is, this is a very exceptional order and the court has passed. The question is, why is our debate restricted today? You see in Kunan Poshpara similar orders were passed by the district court, and why that order was stayed by the High Court.
Sir, this is a development that has just happened. I'll tell you why we are debating it.
The question is of double standards.
One second, Mr. Wani, the problem is this. The problem is this. Nobody is interested in your water boundary. Nobody is interested in your water boundary, Mr. Wani. Please listen to me as to why we are debating the story. You don't know the reasons why? I'll explain to you why. The reasons are very simple.
I'm telling you why.
This is a case. One second, Mr. Wani. You've asked a question. Why are we debating this and not other cases which have been debated multiple times in the past? In this particular case, the High Court order came out last week. We have gone to the victims. We have spoken to them. We have investigated the entire court orders. They are all there for you to see. And if you do not believe that this is a case of miscarriage of justice, then I don't know what will make you believe it's a case of miscarriage of justice.
On your part, I am saying heads must roll. But question is, what has changed since 2014 also? Where are fair investigations being done by police? Where are fair trials being concluded by the police since 2014? Where are challans being produced on time before the court? What has changed since 2014? We are creating a narrative that look, everything is okay since BJP came to power in Kashmir.
Nobody is saying that. We are saying give justice to the victims who did not get it. That's all we are saying. Do you agree with that or not?
Heads must roll. Hold them accountable for all this. But hold BJP also accountable for what they are doing here.
Well, BJP will, you can certainly hold the BJP account. I have absolutely no problem. But these victims who have been in such gross violation of the principles of law, of natural justice of this country, they certainly deserve justice. Let me bring in fact, Aarti Tikku on that. Aarti Tikku, nothing has changed. The previous speaker, Mr. Wani, says this is one case that we are cherry picking. That's what he would have us believe. Please respond to him as to why you feel that this is such a gross violation of the justice that these 24 victims so badly deserved.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising that Mr. Wani would say that nothing has changed, because he still gets to be on Indian news channels, and he still gets to do this obfuscation, this denialism of genocide of Kashmiri Hindus. He still gets to say the same nonsense and the fabrication of lies that they've been peddling for last 30 years. So yeah, nothing has changed on that front, absolutely. But the fact today is that I stand vindicated. In fact, every single day I get vindicated because I've been talking about the complicity of the Indian state as well in the massacres of Kashmiri Hindus. So I'm very glad that J&K High Court, the institutions of India today, finally, the judiciary, even though Supreme Court did disappoint us badly and we were hurt, but finally an institution has gotten up and is reopening these issues, reopening these cases to bring a closure and to bring justice. So I would give all kudos to J&K High Court. The other point I want to mention here is, yes, that all the political parties, whether it's National Conference, PDP, or the Congress Party, or even the BJP, they have to share responsibility and they have to be held accountable for whatever happened to Kashmiri Hindus in the
well, absolutely.
last 30 years, starting
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
They have to show to the rest of India. Indian citizens are going to ask these questions and they must answer.
Absolutely.
Who are the people responsible for the massacres and genocide of Kashmiri Hindus?
Absolutely.
The point is that National Conference, PDP and Congress, who were ruling in Jammu and Kashmir state, they were complicit in all these.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. And let's read out some of those statements. Let's tell our viewers why we are saying so. Let's tell our viewers why. Aarti Tikku, please hold on to your thoughts. Majid Hydari, you know, if statements come out calling local terrorists sons of the soil, if a terrorist kills a civilian, he is wrong. When an official kills a civilian in the country that is shielded, you know, repeatedly, this kind of tendency to protect terrorists is manifested in the actions of the government, and it is also manifested in the statement coming in from the same individual I referred to, Mohan Bhatt. Was he says the healing touch policy of the then PDP regime of Mufti Muhammad Saeed and Mehbooba Mufti was only to rehabilitate terrorists, but became a killing touch policy for Kashmiri Hindus. That's what it was in reality, according to him, and he's a victim.
Respected sir and worthy Aarti Tikku Sahiba, what justice can be delivered in the Nadimarg massacre case when the main accused, the mastermind in the case, has just recently got killed in police custody? I mean, you are making mockery of hope. Please don't mislead our Pandit community.
Majid Hydari, please. You know, it is so amazing how you want to shift the goalposts. It's really amazing. Those who did not take witnesses for 6 years to courts are all right. Those who did not take him 63 times to court are correct. But because he died in police custody, that is a wrong. Those who did not, in fact, even try to build up a prosecution, build such a weak prosecution that it fell in the court, they are correct. Prosecutors are all right according to you.
But he got killed in BJP.
What about the prosecutors, Majid Hydari? What about the prosecutors in the trial court? What did they do? Tell me. What did the prosecutors do? Did they build a strong case? Did they build a strong case? Yes or no?
It's not about strong case.
Of course it is about a strong case. The job of the prosecution is to fight the case strongly.
It is very simple.
To make sure that the accused are brought to justice and are convicted. If they fail so miserably in their job, they will be questioned, sir.
BJP got that hope. See, BJP has been witness to how this hope got killed.
Sir, the BJP was not even in power in Jammu and Kashmir. They've had no say till 2014.
Don't mislead them. BJP is doing nothing for Kashmiri Pandits. Why didn't BJP order?
Sir, you can question the BJP and what they have done for Kashmiri Pandits over the last few years. My question is the miscarriage of justice in this entire case, sir. Why are you not willing to come to terms with that, Majid Hydari? After the court order after court order is repeatedly slamming the then regime, you still don't want to open your eyes up? This is the hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. This is the hypocrisy before your eyes. Let me give, okay, once again, questions on the BJP. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to Amit Raina, but RP Singh. RP Singh, it is the BJP that has failed Kashmiri Pandits, not any other regime. Other regimes have been very good. They have done justice, as we can clearly see in this case.
How this case has reopened? No, Madhav, ask this legal guy from Kashmir, how this case has been reopened is only because the state government has taken initiative in this. And then again
there
saying,
is no state.
Majid is saying that the person died because of the in 2021, sir, justice will be given. Don't bother. Yasin Malik, Bitta Karate, all will be taken to task. None is going to be spared. And again, we will ensure that every person who was involved in any sort of massacre or who was culpable of those murders should be taken to task. Mind my word. Mark my word.
Why should Kashmiri Pandit beg for justice? Why don't you deliver justice? Why don't you order a probe? Stop bullying the Pandit community, please.
Well, that's exactly what the High Court has done, sir.
You have been it was government whom you were sympathetic toward, who didn't allow this man to come to the court. After the 63 times, he was asked to be president of the court.
This would not have been the condition. It's
for that, BJP is responsible, not your friends. Neither Mr. Mufti, neither Mr. Azad.
Okay, let me come in now. Ashwini Handa. Ashwini Handa, as a supporter of Ghulam Nabi Azad, will you apologize to Kashmiri Pandits for failing them?
For the killer, butcher.
1 second, RP Singh, let me just come in over here. Ashwini Handa, will you apologize to Kashmiri Pandits for failing them today? As a supporter of Mr. Azad, क्या आप उनसे माफी मांगेंगे पैनल पे जो कश्मीरी पंडित हैं?
माफी तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी को मांगनी चाहिए।
क्यों सर, आपके मुख्यमंत्री थे, आप गुलाम नबी आजाद के समर्थक हैं, आपको माफी मांगनी चाहिए सर।
जख्म पे तो
जो कोर्ट के ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं, they are very scathing on the then regime.
अगर किसी ने कश्मीरी पंडितों
प्रोसिक्यूशन पूरी तरह नाकामयाब रही, फेलियर रही सर, फेलियर।
अगर उनको
जो विटनेसेस है मामले में उनसे 8 साल तक 6 साल तक कोई पूछताछ तक नहीं हुई
मिला है तो वो गुलाम नबी आजाद साहब ने दिया है।
अच्छा,
रिहैबिलिटेशन सेंटर बनाया है तो गुलाम नबी आजाद साहब ने बनाया है।
रिहैबिलिटेशन सेंटर से न्याय नहीं मिलेगा सर, रहने की जगह जरूर मिली होगी लेकिन न्याय नहीं मिला होगा उन्हें। आई वांट मिस्टर रायना टू कम इन नाउ। अमित रायना, योर रिस्पॉन्स टू अश्विनी हांडा।
Amit Raina, I will tell you another gem. I will tell you another gem of Ghulam Nabi Azad. Bitta Karade caught bail in 2008. The judge, Justice Vani, says, I have never seen state prosecution doing such a pathetic work that I have to give a bail to a person whom I know is guilty, who was the Chief Minister, Ghulam Nabi Azad. Now coming back to the mindset people like Majid Haidari and Mehbooba Mufti have. Majid Haidari is not concerned about 24 innocent Kashmiri Pandits killed. He is more bothered about a terrorist Pakistani Zia. How was he killed? Mehbooba Mufti goes and threatens Kashmiri Pandit victims saying, we are not going to help you and let me see how people of Jammu are going to help you. That's the mindset they have. That is exactly the way a Dhimmi is treated in an Islamic state. That is an unfortunate truth of the whole thing, that you are being treated as a Dhimmi. Now, where state and judiciary have failed and they can still correct themselves, they need to immediately form an SIT, fast track the cases and deliver justice. We need a closure. How long are you going to keep our wounds open? Please allow us to live a normal life. Please give us a sense of closure that neither the state seems to be interested, neither the judiciary seems to be interested. All they seem to be interested in politics. So my request to the judiciary as well as executive and RP Singh, who is a good friend of Kashmiri Pandit community, please force your party, please force your government to form an SIT, fast track cases and give us justice and sense of closure.
All right, Sarfaraz Wani, your response to Amit Raina. There needs to be an urgent SIT to give a sense of closure to Kashmiri Pandits. Quick response to that.
Madhav, yes, justice needs to be served to all the sides. Like this, in this case, prosecution moved an application in the High Court after 10 long years. I will say, move application in all the cases like Puran Poshpura, move application in all the cases where FIRs were lodged against the police and police.
Okay, more whataboutery. More whataboutery.
Every case, and then do justice.
Okay,
do justice
more whataboutery.
Every case.
Every case needs closure. Quick closing comment from Aarti Tikku. Quick comment. 30 seconds, please. You're almost out of time.
I just want to say this, that lot of commissions and lot of investigations did happen in some of the cases that Mr. Bani is referring to. There hasn't been any commission, there has been no tribunal, there has been no investigation whatsoever about the massacres and genocide that was committed against Kashmiri Hindus. So it's very shameful for these people to come on Indian news channels and then do what they've been doing for the last 30 years, which is denialism. What we really should be asking is that who are the people within the Indian state who've been protecting and shielding murderers, all the Islamists, all the terrorists backed by Pakistan, who all benefited from
who has been backing them? Who has been backing them, Aarti Tikku, I think is there for all to see. What really is the justice that has been given to people? 24 people were killed. In any other part of the world or any other part of the country, if such an incident had happened, would such a mockery of a trial have been acceptable to the public at large? Would the government not have been held accountable any other part of the world, any other democracy in the world? Those are some questions that we as citizens need to ask those leaders who are in power at that point of time. And if justice has not been done, how quickly, how soon can it be done in such a case? I leave our viewers with those questions. I'd like to thank R.P. Singh, Amit Raina, Aarti Tikku, Sarfaraz Wani, Majid Haidari and Ashwini Handa for joining us on debate number 1. A man who's accused of molesting minors is seeing political heavyweights making a beeline to offer their obeisance. Yes, according to the Constitution of India, one is innocent until proven guilty. But in Karnataka, an alleged child abuser is getting an astonishingly long rope. The accused we are talking about is an influential Lingayat Seer, someone no politician so far has taken the risk to offend. Why? Because the elections are around the corner and they need the vote of millions of his devotees. The pontiff of the Murga Rajendra Mutt is not being arrested or even being quizzed for that matter. Instead, he's holding court as if nothing has happened. Even though he's been booked under the stringent POSCO Act, he is yet to be questioned by the police. And these reactions from prominent politicians across party lines may be the reason why. Listen in to the character certificates that have been issued.
ಮಠದಲ್ಲಿರೋದೇ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಷಡ್ಯಂತ್ರ ಇದು ತನಿಖೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸತ್ಯಾಸತ್ಯತೆ ಹೊರಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲದರಿಂದ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೊರಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಡೀ ನಾಡಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನ ಗೌರವ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ
ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಎಫ್ಐಆರ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಆದ್ರೆ ನೋಡೋಣ ಇವತ್ತು ಅದು ಒಳಜಗಳ ಬಸವರಾಜರ ಮಾಜಿ ಶಾಸಕ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಜಗಳ ಅದ್ರ ಮ್ಯಾಗ ಈ ಗಾಡಿ ಹಚ್ಚಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರಟಿದೆ ಅದು ಏನು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೋತದ ನೋಡೋಣ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಅಂತವೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಆರೋಪ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಪ್ಪು ಇಂಥ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಇರೋರು ಒಂದಿಬ್ಬರು ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Yes, see, from childhood I am following this mutt. So it is my duty to come and meet Swami. That it will take take its own course. If they are really guilty, then see, unless it is proved, I cannot say anything. But unless, see, if you allow me, I will also go and meet the children also. But the police people and the department is not allowing me to go there and talk to the children.
No, because it is a religious head and lakhs together people devotees for the Murga Mata Sri, and there is allegations and counter allegations also there. And Swamiji already expressed that is some vested interest. These all false allegations have been made. It is all, everything will come out, only proper investigation.
I don't know the fact. According to me, I have seen that he is a very noble man who has done some great contribution to the state. Let me leave it to the, let me not interfere with the whatever the police or the government is doing late, because I can't only reply to whatever you are telling. Let me examine it, then I'll come back to you.
ಅಣ್ಣ ನಾನು ಮಠದ ಭಕ್ತನಾಗಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು 5 ದಿನದಿಂದ ನಾನು ಮಠದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನೇನಿದು ವಿಸಿಟ್ಗೆ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಿರೋದಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಓಡಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಬುದ್ಧಿಯವರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಆಪಾದನೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ನಾನಿಲ್ಲಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅನ್ಯಾಯ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನ್ಯಾಯ ದೊರಕಲೇಬೇಕು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡನೇ ಮಾತೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಪೀಠದ ಗೌರವ ಇದೆ. ಬುದ್ಧಿಗುಳದಿಂದ ಅದೇನು ಸತ್ಯಾಸತ್ಯತೆ ಅದು ತನಿಖೆಯಿಂದನೇ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಆ ಸತ್ಯಾಸತ್ಯತೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರೋ ತನಕ ಅದ್ರ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಷಡ್ಯಂತ್ರ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ ಅಥವಾ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅರ್ಥ.
And the political patronage being given to the accused has larger implications, as a number of lapses were witnessed in the case which may have led to diluting of evidence in this matter. The seer was allowed to address gatherings even in such sensitive circumstances. He's back at the mutt, which has not been cordoned off, thereby compromising the sanctity of the alleged site of the crime. The spot inspection with victims was done at the same time when the seer was on the same premises. and this year was even allowed access to the girls' hostel. Perhaps emboldened by a lack of any action or restriction from the police, even others from his fraternity have extended open support.
ಭದ್ರ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ಈಗ ಈ ಮುಂದಿನ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋಣ. ಅದನ್ನ ಮುಂದಿನ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋಣ.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's go across to our guest joining us now. We have with us Pramila Nesargi, lawyer and activist. Also with us is Anurag Naidu, author. With us also is Bhavna Ramana, who's also an actor, and Said Aslam Pasha, spokesperson of the JDS, is with us. You were on the show yesterday, Pramila Nesargi, and we started by asking you a simple question. You know, leave alone the arrest. You know, Mr. Vishwanath, who's himself a leader of the BJP, has asked why there is no arrest in POCSO. But can you explain to me, ma'am, why 5 days hence the police have not even spoken to or interrogated the main accused in a case of POCSO? I mean, that is virtually unheard of. There may not be any, you know, CRPC rule that is binding on the police, but it's absolutely mind-boggling that the cops have not even spoken to the prime accused. Pramila Nesargi.
I do not know whether you know the procedure. According to the procedure, everything is being done in accordance with law and the guidelines laid down by the Supreme Court. Show me where is the variation. Case has been registered, has been transferred to the proper court for having jurisdiction. Statements of the victims have been recorded in the presence of the complainant and others. Thereafter, medical examination has been done. 161 statements have been recorded. Then thereafter, 164 statements have also been recorded. The inspection also has been done. Start inspection. Well, where is the mistake considered by the department? Tell me where it has happened. In the meantime, Section 41A notice has been issued to the Swami.
Let me quickly bring in.
He has been questioned.
Said Aslam Pasha. No. Said Aslam Pasha, all procedures have been fulfilled. There is no deviation from the law or the precedent of the law. Do you agree with Pramila Nesargi?
Madhav, I just want to tell you and Pramila Nesargi ji that there are serious allegations and charges which have been made against the Seer and the 4 other accused. When I say serious allegations and charges, it is POCSO, and also I got to know that there's a case of SC/ST Act which is also being booked. Now, especially coming to the POCSO, right, in any other case, Madhav, you need to know, in any other case, the accused is not, till he is not convicted, until unless is proven guilty. But in POCSO cases, it's the other way.
Yes.
That the investigation needs to happen, at a faster pace. The POCSO Act itself says that this is brought in to bring in the robust approach in the judicial system, right? And unfortunately, if there is any
let Pramila Nesargi respond to that. Section 29 of the POCSO Act, Pramila Nesargi, puts a burden of proof on the accused. It is for the accused to prove that he is innocent. It is not a normal law, and that is why there is so much outrage in the country, Pramila Nesargi.
There is no absolute presumption. Rebuttable presumption in law under the Evidence Act. The prosecution has to prove first. Then the rebuttable presumption is there. It is not absolute presumption. I do not know where is the law of evidence. They have to prove prima facie that such an incident has happened. Then the burden shifts on the accused. Then he also has to show that he has not committed. We have not yet reached the stage. It is under the investigation stage. After all the evidence is collected, police will decide whether Swamiji has to be arrested and custodial investigation is required.
I'm just going to read out what Section 29 says. It says where a person is prosecuted for committing or abetting or attempting to commit any offence under Section 3, 5, Section 9 of this Act, the special court shall presume that such person has committed or abetted or attempted to commit the offence as the case may be, unless the contrary is proved. So it is the burden is on the accused very clearly, ma'am. Section 29 spells it out in black and white.
When does the evidence come? Once the charge sheet is filed and enquiry is held, the burden comes there.
So therefore the seriousness of such a case.
Is it at the investigation phase? Tell me. What phase? Inquiry, investigation, charge sheet.
Ma'am, that is the problem. The inquiry has not even begun. The accused has not even been spoken to.
I would like
In
to
such a serious section being invoked, despite that, the police is soft peddling. Kasturi Shankar, actor, wants to come in on this. Yes, Kasturi Shankar.
I was with Ms. Nasargi on another debate as well, and I really want to know, I'm an advocate as well, and I really want to know, in any other case, let's take the example of any other citizen of India in a POCSO case. Ma'am, can you please advise me on how many days they can go without actually being taken into custody and taken in for investigation? The police has not even approached the accused for investigation. We are not at any point saying he is guilty. We are not passing a verdict. But in any other citizen's case, if it was an Aam Aadmi, how many minutes, how many hours before a person is taken in for investigation?
Is there any case in the country, the moment the case is filed, accused is arrested? Show me one case. Show me one case.
I can show you many cases. Bravado is not going to help. I can show you many cases. The fact remains that once a person, once a complaint and an FIR is filed on the basis of POCSO, there are no anticipatory bail options. And this is both a PCA case as well as a POCSO case.
Okay.
The whole point of that, it has become a mockery of a law that was brought in order to protect the interests.
All right, let me quickly come in now. Ladies, let me quickly come in and let me bring in Anurag Naidu on this. Anurag Naidu, there is an important point being made over here. The point is this, and there are three very important points. Listen to me. You can respond to each one of them. First, there are elections in Karnataka. Political parties do not want to upset a leader of a powerful vote bank. Second, the police is caught for the 5th day. They have not yet interrogated the Seer. Is it because of political pressure? Is it because of the signaling given by the various political parties? Even Mr. Saeed Aslam Pasha's, who's incidentally sitting on the panel, and I'm going to ask him that question. Even your legislator, sir, went today to that mutt. Yes. And he's given us a bite over there, Mr. Virendra Pappi. So it is not any one party. It's not only the ruling party, BJP. It is also the Congress, who is treading very cautiously, and it is also the JDS, which is trying to send signals that they are with this Seer. Every political party, therefore, is guilty of this, Anurag Naidu, today, and that is a symptom of a larger malaise. What about the victims? Are these girls lying? Yeah. Are you saying that these girls, minors who have come out, risking their image, risking their entire physical well-being, their mental well-being, these girls are lying? Is that the argument today we are going to tell the nation?
No, Madhav, you are absolutely right. And there is no doubt in saying that all the parties of Karnataka are backing him, and this is on record. But to say that the government is not acting enough, I don't think that, I think that will be too fast and too quick for us, too preemptive for us to say this, because government who has a Lingaya chief minister, right, and who has been backed by Mr. Yadurappa, none other than Mr. Yadurappa, has already supported the investigation. When POSCO has been already applied to this case, and there is a fast-track investigation already going on, what we are lacking is, yes, the interrogation is something that we would like to see, but I'm very confident in the next 1 or 2 days there will be interrogation, there will be questioning, because in such a high-profile matter, let's give it. It's not easy for the police to just go knock the door and bring somebody out, because lakhs of devotees of Dr. Shivamurthy and Chitradurga. He's a very influential mutt. In fact, you see, MLAs making, the battery of MLAs making rounds around his corridors. So it's not easy, and there's a law and order situation. Let us give some breathing space to the police.
Is that really an acceptable excuse if there's a law and order situation? I'm going to bring in Brinda Adige on that. Brinda Adige, there may be a law and order situation. He admits that yes, all political parties are doing nothing but appeasement in an election year. But I mean, what kind of arguments are these? Here he is a citizen. Are some citizens above the law? Should the law not apply equally to everybody?
Yes, if those citizens happen to be the ones who would turn the votes for or against, yes, they are above the law. That law does not apply to them. Mr. Naidu is making baseless statements, because if you say that it's a high-profile case and, there is community that is there, are you then saying that we are ordinary citizens? My one vote doesn't count for you. And Mrs. Premila Nesargi You are saying, show me a case where arrest has been made. Show me a case where the alleged accused has come and addressed the gathering and stated over there that he is innocent. Please show me any one case like that. You are talking about this particular person because he's so powerful and he holds your votes in his hands. And all the pontiffs who have come in support of this man.
We respect this, Swamiji. There is no law that he cannot speak. There is no law that he cannot address. Show me a law that he cannot address. Show me one law that he cannot meet the people. If I want to meet, can I not meet? I got great respect for him. I won't meet him. What is wrong with it? So also, the entire citizens of the state, they have reverence and they have great respect and they want to see.
Pramila Nesargi, leave aside all that. Leave aside the legality. One second. Pramila Nesargi, one second. Let me just come in now. Brinda Adige and Pramila Nesargi, let me come in. There's one panelist who has not yet spoken, and before I go across to her, I want to ask Pramila Nesargi a matter of principle. Ma'am, you are right on law. You are more senior than anybody on this panel. You have been an outspoken advocate of women's rights, and that's why it would pain many people to see the kind of argument you're taking today. It is a matter of principle, ma'am. If he is a man of religion, if he is a leader of those people, if he is a person who has sacrificed or is supposed to have sacrificed so much, why can he not sacrifice his position? Why should he not submit himself before the law?
Is he not cooperating with the investigation? Why do you say he's not doing it? He is a prajna. He is above. He is according to us, Acharya Devo Baba. We consider him as God. What is the prevention? So why you say he must be prevented from meeting people?
Ma'am, this is a matter of principle. This is a matter of principle. And this is a matter of principle for a man wearing saffron, a man who everybody respects. If he was really innocent, why does he not submit himself for an investigation? Answer that, please.
Who said he's not submitting? Yeah, is he prohibiting any police from coming and taking?
He should voluntarily go.
Telling the police.
He should voluntarily go, madam.
Are we the investigating officers? When they have to interrogate?
I am sorry, ma'am. You may have a lot of legal and technical points on the matter of principle. On a matter of principle, I am sorry, your arguments just don't quote healthy water. Kasturi Shankar wants to respond to you. Kasturi Shankar.
I've read, today's news states that they have applied for anticipatory bail on behalf of Swami Shivamurti. So are you able to corroborate that? Are you going to deny it? You're going to, because if he is stopping the police, nobody is stopping the police, then it's the news of the anticipatory bail.
Right to seek anticipatory bail? Do you say that they cannot approach the court? You
can't say both sides. You can't say we are doing nothing. We are fully cooperating with the police, and then on the other side, you're saying what is the law against anticipatory bail? Could you just tell me what is the fact?
They are deemed to be accused. They are deemed to have been punished. They are deemed to have been committed against.
Let me bring in Bhavna Ramana now. Bhavna Ramana, you have mentioned that you have interacted with this here. One second, ladies and gentlemen, please let me just come in now. I want to bring in Bhavna Ramana, who's an actor. Bhavna Ramana, you have mentioned that you have met this here, you have interacted with him several times, and the simple question I want to ask you is this. When it comes to politics, there is a principle that is generally followed when acts of impropriety come to the fore, that Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. Why should it not apply to those who are religious leaders as well?
This is not about religion, this is about caste. It's about the...
One second, madam. Kasturi Shankar, you've spoken. Let Bhavna come in now, please.
Actually, the word itself is not right. You know, it cannot be a religious leader. There cannot be leaders in religion thing. Dharmikavadantaru, yavaglu, the dharmika people, they are not a leader. They never want to become a leader. They are the acharyas, as Pramila ma'am was talking about, and they become the guru. They have become the margadarshak for everyone. So I don't think they'll ever intend to become a leader to start with. So there is no question of them they're handling the situation in a very political manner at all. There is no such situation at all. Here, the Chitradurga and Murugarajendra Matha and Shivkumar Swamiji, the whole thing has a different color and different feel and different thing for people. It's very heartening for us to know something like this happening in Karnataka to start with. It is never a case that we have heard of a story such in Karnataka to start with, and that too Chitradurga.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as a devotee, if you feel bad, that one can understand your feelings, but that should not prevent the law from taking its course. Come on, there will be other devotees of other denominations who will say the same thing. If their leader tomorrow is accused of the same way, there's no end to this. Because we are seeing a repeat of what happened in the case of other spiritual leaders, whether it is Asaram Bapu, whether it is what happened in Ram Rahim's case. There were very serious charges in Rampal's case.
No,
it's the same thing that happened. Devotee says we can't believe. The law finds out and eventually convicts these individuals.
Murugarajendra Matha Swamigal, he never called himself a leader. I don't think he ever wanted to be a leader too. So he is never a leader. There is something, when it is a spirituality, there is nothing called as leader.
Ma'am, he is the head of the mutt. So let's not get into technicalities. These are all jargon. These are all jargon, whether you call him Acharya, whether you call him Guru, whether you call him Mathadish, whether you call him Swamigal, it does not matter. It is about the person who is heading a very powerful religious sect or religious institution. And that's why I want to quickly bring in Brinda Adige for the closing comments. Brinda Adige, you know, we have gone from technical arguments to spiritual arguments. At the end of the day, does the law not apply to all of us equally? And should it not?
Absolutely. It applies to everybody equally. If this Mata head is carrying a voter ID, has a passport, then he falls within the purviews of the Indian Constitution and all the laws, irrespective of his spirituality and whatever the devotees believe about him. The law is the same. He is also booked under the Prevention Act. I didn't disturb.
How are you going to reverse that?
Hold on. Ethically, forget about everything else. Ethically, is it not the right thing for him to say, I'm here to support with the investigation, I will cooperate, and I will now step down from this position till the case is over.
He has said that.
Okay.
He has said that he is very much in his own premises.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, all that we are saying is this, that a person who is, you know, an inspiration for many should also be setting an example in cases such as this. If he has nothing to hide, he should submit himself to the investigation. I think that's very clear and simple, and that's the message going out here. Pramila Nesargi, Anurag Naidu, Bhavna Ramana, Syed Aslam Pasha, G.V. Patil, as well as Kasturi Shankar. I'd like to thank all of you, as well as Brinda Adige for joining us this evening, and Pramila Nesargi for very spiritedly putting up a defense. I may not agree with you, ma'am, but a very spirited defense that you've put up. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
We are aware of reports of a proposed visit by this vessel.
At 10.
Telangana CM K. Chandrasekhar Rao met Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and Deputy CM Tejashwi Yadav in Patna today. KCR said we need a BJP Mukt India. In another jolt to Congress in Jammu and Kashmir, party's former chief Pirzada Saeed resigned from the party. He will join former Congress leader Ghulam